Disciple? Even Long Chun was startled. When had he ever taken a disciple? That heaven venerates hair was already balding and graying. He clearly wasn't young. But as soon as he saw Long Chun, he called himself his disciple and knelt to kowtow to his master. "Senior, you are?" Long Chun hastily lifted him off. The moment he touched this old man's arm, he instantly understood why the latter called himself his disciple. "Senior? You can't call me like that," cried out the elder. "Back then, your explanation of the starry river of the sky art has enlightened this disciple, allowing me to go from a world king into a heaven venerate. You gave me a new outlook on life. Disciple is Huang Hui. If you wish, you can directly call me by name." The starry river of the sky art? When they heard that name, the surrounding people were startled. That was an extremely domineering cultivation technique. One mistake would cripple or kill a person when cultivating it. Thus, essentially all sects viewed it as a forbidden technique, and they would not allow others to cultivate it. So, these people hadn't expected to run into someone who actually trained in it here. No, that doesn't make sense. The starry river of the sky art is an incomplete cultivation technique. The absolute majority of people are limited to the immortal king realm or before. "It's impossible for him to have been a world king," cried out someone. The name of the starry river of the sky art was known to most people. Countless people had heard its legends. Only people who were forced to the point of having no other choice were willing to train in this technique. As it cut off your future prospects, cultivating it was essentially deciding your upper limit. However, this elder in front of them was actually a powerful heaven venerate. That was completely against common knowledge. Disciple greets senior. At this time, all the younger disciples who had come with this elder knelt on the ground and kowtowed toward Long Chun. All of their gazes were fervent and excited. Long Chun instantly understood. Back then, he had left the dark light heaven and gone to the violet flame heaven's starry river palace. The starry river palace was in ruins, but it was there that Long Chun comprehended the starry river of the sky art and learned the full technique for drawing astral energy into his body. Furthermore, he didn't conceal it to himself. He then shared it with the world, giving people an essential and comprehensive understanding of this technique. When Long Chun discussed the Tao that day, countless people watched him. Countless people were taking notes, and those notes then spread throughout the world. As a result, countless experts who had been forced to cultivate the starry river of the sky art once more saw hope. Originally, their future paths were cut off, but Long Chun continued that path for them. With this, the starry river of the sky art became a complete cultivation technique. As long as a person had the right aptitude and worked hard enough, they could even become a heaven venerate or even an eternal. Huang Hui was one such cultivator. He was extremely talented and had been stuck at the Immortal King bottleneck like everyone else, but he actually relied on his own intelligence to connect this broken path to the next step. He was the first person to break through to the World King realm with the starry river of the sky art in the recent era. After that, relying on his talent, he tried to help other cultivators of the starry river of the sky art break through this limit as well. He even established his own starry river gate. Not accepting disciples, he only helped cultivators of the starry river of the sky art break their limits. However, his power was limited, and while he managed to reach the World King realm, he was unable to progress any further. No matter how hard he tried, he was unable to continue this path. Later on, after Long Chun had explained the essence of the starry river of the sky art and it reached his hands, Long Chun's comprehensive explanation instantly enlightened him. As a result, he directly broke through from the World King realm to the Divine Venerate realm. Furthermore, he was originally a latent triple supreme. However, he had been harmed before his potential awakened and was forced to cultivate the starry river of the sky art to protect his life. Having been in the World King realm for countless years, his foundation was incredibly solid, allowing him to swiftly rise all the way to the Heaven Venerate realm. It could be said that there was no way for him to repay his gratitude toward Long Chun. Just now, he was leading people on a stroll around the vicinity when he suddenly heard someone mention Long Chun's name, so he immediately ran over. He had seen what Long Chun looked like in photographic jades, so he instantly recognized Long Chun and kowtowed to him as a disciple to a master. "Senior, it really is great that I can meet you." Huang Hui looked at Long Chun emotionally. Long Chun had changed his fate. No, he had changed the sorrowful fate of all cultivators of the starry river of the sky art. This favor was truly immense. "If you're here, does it mean that there is a base for the starry river inheritance here?" asked Long Chun. "Yes, and we've already found it. 8 million cultivators of the starry river line have arrived. Now that you're here too, if they learn about your presence, they'll definitely be overjoyed. Senior, please come back with us," said Huang Hui. "All right, we'll take a look." Long Chun nodded. Huang Hui was delighted by his acceptance and hastily brought them deeper into the human race's territory. The area between the human race and the demonic beast race's territories was a masterless land. Past this area, they saw that countless areas already had camps. Those camps had people guarding them, and anyone who got too close would be warned. While passing by one camp in particular, Long Chun suddenly paused and looked at the entrance. "An arrest warrant?" Guoran and the others paused. There was a giant arrest warrant placed outside the entrance here, as well as an image of a person. When Long Chun and the others saw that person, they almost laughed. It was a cloaked man of good proportions and a slightly chubby face. He had a sinister smile on his face that instantly made him seem like a bad person. This person was precisely Mo Nien. However, this picture intentionally added a little bit of his baby fat and made his eyes even more wretched. It was a bit off the real Mo Nien, so Long Chun and the others hadn't recognized him at first. "Who are you? You dare to laugh here? Scram! Don't ask for trouble." When Long Chun and the others laughed at the picture, the experts at the gate shouted at them. "We can't even laugh? Do you need to be so mean? Serves you right for having your graves robbed," sneered Guoran. Guoran instantly enraged those people. One of them waved his hand, and hundreds of experts flew out of their camp, blocking them. "You're definitely related to that fellow Mo Nien, aren't you?" shouted one of them. Clearly, their ancestral graves really had been robbed. In an instant, Guoran's words raised their suspicions. "If you don't want to die, then scram. Otherwise, the starry river line will trample your snow river gate." Huang Hui's expression sank. An elder amongst those people twitched upon hearing of the starry river line. He hastily said, "It's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. Everyone, take care." Clearly, they were scared off by the name of the starry river line. Long Chun was surprised. He could clearly sense the aura of an innate heaven venerate inside their camp. So why did they retreat just like that? Only once they got out of the way did Huang Hui's expression improve. He respectfully led the way for Long Chun, leaving this place. On the way, they saw quite a few camps with this arrest warrant on their gates, making them rather speechless. It seemed that Mo Nien had not been slacking off. The arrest warrants had huge rewards on them. Some people were even offering an eternal divine weapon in exchange for Mo Nien's head. They clearly hated Mo Nien to the death. After walking a while, heaven and earth suddenly began shaking, and a strange aura came out from the ground beneath their feet. A shocking scene then startled Long Chun and the others. Smoke began to gush out of the ground, and primal chaos chi was bursting out, causing the ruins to quiver. As the heavenly Daos rumbled, the very landscape was changing, and dirt swirled on top of the ruins, eventually solidifying into the foundations of the buildings. "The Sage King Prefecture is awakening. Let's hurry." Huang Hui beckoned, and they sped up their pace. Rushing through this land, Long Chun saw countless sects cheering in their own camps. The places that they were in had turned into solid building foundations, as if a pair of invisible hands were reconstructing this world. 2 hours later, they arrived at a giant camp, and the countless experts there immediately knelt toward Long Chun fervently when they saw him. "Everyone, please rise. We are all heirs of the starry river, and all I did was pass on the sacred teachings." "I cannot accept this," said Long Chun hastily. The gratitude that these people felt toward Long Chun could not be expressed in simple words. In the violet flame heaven starry river ruins, Long Chun had managed to pass on the complete starry river of the sky art, connecting these people to their future paths. It was no different than continuing their lives for them. These people would have been stuck in the immortal king realm for the rest of their lives. But now they had broken through their limits. This was all thanks to Long Chun. What Long Chun hadn't expected was that amongst the millions of the Starry River experts here, there were hundreds of thousands of world kings and thousands of divine venerates. When he asked, he learned that they weren't here to attend the Sage King Convention, but to protect the ones who could participate in it. If the ones coming were just immortal kings, the seniors were worried about them being bullied. Thus, upon arriving here, they immediately announced that they would fight to the death against anyone who dared to bully the Starry River Line's disciples. However, when they first arrived, countless people looked down on them, viewing them as a broken inheritance that had purely come for fun. As a result, within 1 month, over 10 large battles were fought, and quite a few disciples of the Starry River Line were killed. However, more and more of their disciples continued to arrive, as well as more of their powerful experts. All of them were fearless toward death. When Huang Hui in particular arrived, he led them to have their vengeance, annihilating the powers that had bullied the Starry River Line. In fact, an innate heaven venerate was severely wounded by them and fled. At that time, over 1 million disciples of the Starry River Line had gathered. Against so many fearless people, even an innate heaven venerate could only flee for his life. That battle finally intimidated the surrounding people, so none of them dared to look down on the Starry River Line any longer. Furthermore, after that battle, even more disciples of the Starry River Line appeared. Toward the end, they had gathered over 8 million of them. They had the most people of any power. Their force was so enormous that even the neighboring factions, with innate heaven venerates standing guard over them, couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. What truly unnerved them wasn't the sheer quantity, but rather the unwavering fearlessness displayed by these people. They had never seen such ferocious warriors before. At first, when they hadn't had so many people here, people from the Starry River Line had even self-detonated to drag their enemies down with them. That courage was astonishing. And with so many of them now gathered, anyone with a brain refused to provoke this group of madmen. Thus, the previous group that had been offended by their mention of Ammonian immediately retreated upon hearing of the Starry River Line. They really didn't dare to provoke them. Senior, since you're here for the Sage King Convention, you can represent our Starry River Line. With you here, we'll definitely get a good ranking. As long as we can get into the top 10,000, the Starry River Line will have hope of reviving. With the support of the world's karmic luck, we will definitely rebuild the Starry River sect, said an Earth Venerate, his elderly face filled with excitement. The rankings on the Sage King Convention related to the karmic luck support of the world. This was why so many powers had come out in full force and brought their most outstanding disciples. I'm sorry, but I can't represent the Starry River Line, said Long Chun awkwardly. In an instant, countless disciples of the Starry River Line were disappointed. I'm a dean of the High Firmament Academy. I can't represent other factions, said Long Chun a bit helplessly. That elder immediately clapped his forehead. I'm so sorry, I forgot about this. You're from the High Firmament Academy, so naturally you must represent them. It's fine, just look at our numbers. We have over 6 million Immortal King disciples. There's no worry that we won't get into the top 10,000. Huang Hui laughed confidently. Just as they were speaking, a giant palace grew out of the ground next to their camp. This magnificent structure, which was made entirely of earth, bore a massive signboard in Julie Immortal characters that read, Starry River. Upon closer inspection, these 2 characters seemed to be formed by countless flowing stars, with each star exuding an ancient air. Within these characters, it felt as if you could see the workings of the universe. This was personally written by the Starry River Sage, said Long Chun. Hearing this, everyone was shaken. This was their first time attending the Sage King Convention and their first time seeing the spectacle. When Long Chun said that the Starry River characters were written by the Starry River Sage, they immediately kowtowed toward it. The human race cared deeply about inheritances. Without the Starry River Sage, there would be no Starry River of the Sky Art. And without the Starry River of the Sky Art, they would not have their current accomplishments. As time passed, one palace after another slowly rose out of the ground. However, those were all side palaces. The main palace was still in the midst of forming, and this strange sight surprised Long Chun. This was the most incomprehensible energy that Long Chun had ever encountered. Based on what he was seeing, these buildings were growing out of every power's inherited territory. But when the Sage King convention ended, these palaces would once more turn to ruins. Would they reform at the next Sage King convention? Long Chun was stunned thinking of this, and Xia Chun and Guoran were even more so. As a forger and a formation master, they had never seen this kind of concept before. It was the power of creation. Touching the runes on the palace, they sensed their immense power, stupefied. They didn't know what these runes were, but hitting them resulted only in their fists hurting. The wall was incomparably hard. Time continued to pass, and other than the main palace, all the others had fully formed. These palaces had all kinds of murals hanging in them, and there were various strange sights within those carvings. Long Chen's heart shook when he examined those murals. Perhaps some of them were related to the secrets of the 9-star hegemon body art. Just as he was about to examine them more closely, Huang Hui ran over anxiously. "Senior, not good. Come and take a look. How can this be?" When Long Chun saw countless people collapsing on the ground in the palace, clutching their heads and howling in pain, he was completely stunned. "I don't know either." They looked at the starry sea diagram at the heart of the palace and immediately collapsed like this. "I've already forbidden others from entering the palace," said Huang Hui hastily. "Starry sea diagram?" Long Chun immediately ran into the palace that was still growing out of the ground. Now, there was a divine pool at the heart of the palace, and you could see stars within the divine pool that moved like the workings of the cosmos. Actually, the star diagram did not look like a diagram and more like a true starry river. The more Long Chun looked, the deeper and further it seemed, giving him a hair-raising feeling. It felt like he was lost deep in the sea, as if some monster would devour him whole at any possible moment. They looked at the star diagram and then turned into this state. They said that it made their heads feel like exploding, said Huang Hui. Contrary to Long Chun, his head was lowered, as he didn't dare to look at the divine pool. This is the true divine diagram of the Starry River. The Starry River Sage probably created the Starry River of the Sky Art based on it. This is the true beginning and the true end. Also, the star diagrams in the side palaces are steps toward this divine diagram. Without taking those first steps, jumping straight to the final step results in this, said Long Chun, beckoning to the fallen disciples. Long Chun checked their bodies and found that their astral energy was in disarray. However, it wasn't too serious. Only their souls were shaken. Long Chun then took out some medicinal pills and had people distribute them. After consuming those pills, these people slowly recovered from the pain. With this lesson, everyone became much more careful and didn't dare to randomly look around. Long Chun then directed them to start with the two characters on the gate, the Starry River characters. Whether or not they could comprehend these two characters was not that important. Long Chun would give them a more detailed explanation later. The main thing was not to mess up the order of starting from the basics before going into deeper waters. It would be best if they could comprehend things themselves. But if they couldn't, it wasn't a huge deal either. It was just that they could not vainly try to continue onward without comprehending the steps before it. Long Chun also started off with the Starry River characters, which was the most foundational entry point. It was also the simplest to comprehend. With one look, you would understand. However, the actual realm inside of it was not so simple. Compared to the ruins of the Starry River Palace, the inheritance here was actually more complete. Even Long Chun was benefiting immensely after observing it. After looking at the Starry River characters, Long Chun went into the first side palace and looked at the first mural, then the second mural and the third. Every side palace had 9 murals, and there were a total of 9 side palaces. Overall, there were a total of 81 starry murals to look over. The star diagrams started off simple but gradually grew more complex. At first, they were clear, but then they grew seemingly messy. By the 9th palace, the star diagrams were chaotic, giving people a headache with just a look. Huang Hui managed to follow Long Chun all the way to the 5th palace before he was forced to stop. Here, he was unable to instantly comprehend the diagrams any longer. As for the ordinary people, they were still stuck at the 1st palace. Fortunately, the palace was big enough to fit them all. Long Chun stayed in the 9th palace for 3 full days. In the end, he found that the 9 starry murals were 9 kinds of divine arts. However, these 9 divine arts had many problematic areas. With the 9-star hegemon body art, Long Chun was able to understand the Starry River Sage's intent. But after examining these 9 murals for a long time, he came to the conclusion that these 9 divine arts were actually incomplete. In other words, the Starry River Sage himself was unable to use these 9 divine arts. He hadn't reached that height and had relied entirely on his intelligence to deduce these techniques. The Starry River Sage's intelligence really is unfathomable. He clearly had only taken 3 steps, but managed to deduce all the way to the 9th step. This kind of intelligence is something that I will never be able to reach. Long Chun couldn't help sighing in amazement. Although there were some mistakes in the 9th step, the first 8 steps were perfect, and the 9th step was also mostly correct. After seeing it, Long Chun was filled with admiration. Long Chun then summoned his own Starry Sea manifestation. Using the 9-star hegemon body art as the foundation, he corrected the Starry River of the Sage art. In the end, he managed to deduce these 9 techniques. As Long Chun raised his hand, a star diagram appeared on his palm. In this state, his hand almost couldn't be seen because it was entirely covered in tiny stars. What power! Although it's not on the same level as the Dragon King battle armor, it's only 1 level weaker. Looking at this starry palm, Long Chun was amazed. The heavenly Daos change, but astral energy remains eternal. It is more reliable than heavenly Dao energy. Long Chun slowly reached out and clenched his hand, causing cracks to appear in the void. This high concentration of power shocked Long Chun, and he felt even greater admiration for the Starry River Sage. Moreover, this was only one technique of the star diagrams. The rest of them could unleash astral energy through fists, feet, elbows, heads, and other areas. Some were offensive and some were defensive. But coming up with these divine arts was the Starry River Sage's limit, and these techniques still had many flaws. If they could all be merged into one technique, then it would be perfect. Even so, getting this far on his own was already very amazing. If Long Chun wanted to connect all these moves into one, he would have to think about it himself. After all, the Starry River Sage had opened up a path that was unimaginable for him. The Starry River of the Sky art was created based on the 9-star hegemon body art, so it was at least a good consultation point for Long Chun. However, if this powerful technique came from the 9-star hegemon body art, then where did the 9-star hegemon body art come from? The Starry River Sage was already so incredible, so what about the 9-star master? Long Chun was almost unable to believe it. Compared to these seniors, he felt minuscule. When Long Chun arrived at the main palace, he found that it was already erected nicely. The central divine pool had the divine radiance of a starry river flowing within it, illuminating the ceiling above. The ceiling had no designs on it, but when the divine radiance illuminated it, Long Chun could see a starry river slowly flowing. It was as if it was following a set path, flowing in an endless loop. So that's the case. This is the original form of the Starry River. To go from 1 to 9 and then back to 1. However, this one is not the old one. The Grand Tao is simple. You start at 1, end at 9 and return to 1. But without going through the first one, you cannot understand the last one. Cycle after cycle, you understand more and more layers. Although it looks like you're just repeating the same thing, the height is different. The Starry River of the Sky art is like this, and the 9-star hegemon body art should be the same. Does that mean that there is a return to the start after cultivating the 9 stars? But what is the start? Long Chun was lost in thought. The final mural was actually the beginning of the Starry River of the Sky art, and it was also a new starting point. After all, the starry river repeated itself in an endless loop, giving Long Chun some inspiration. "Boss, the Soaring Dragon Company's people have come." Long Chun was in the midst of pondering this new enlightenment when Guoran came running in. Outside the starry river line's land, 7 elders had arrived. Other than one human, the rest were all from different races. One of them was wearing a cloak all around their body with black chi swirling around them. However, upon closer examination, it became evident that beneath the cloak lay a skeletal figure, devoid of flesh and blood. These 7 people were all innate heaven venerates, and only the human expert was wearing robes of the Soaring Dragon Company. Although these 7 heaven venerates weren't intentionally emitting their pressure, their auras still shook people's hearts. Normally, a single heaven venerate would be enough to shake an army. But now 7 had appeared at once. Guoran might normally act as if all his enemies were beneath him, but now he couldn't. He could only obediently follow behind Long Chun. Although he wanted to act like he wasn't nervous, it wasn't possible for him. Other than him and Xiachen, Huang Hui had also come, as well as a dozen earth venerates of the Starry River line. They were the pillars of this territory. Seeing that so many heaven venerates had come, their expressions changed. It seemed that these people did not come with good intentions. "What? After finding a few helpers, you want to settle our debts?" Long Chun appraised those people and curled his lips. Other than the Soaring Dragon Company's expert, it seemed that Long Chun couldn't beat a single one of these heaven venerates. But he wasn't afraid because he knew that none of them would dare to touch him at this time. The elder of the Soaring Dragon Company cleared his throat and said, "This old man is here not to settle our personal grievances. Actually, the Soaring Dragon Company wishes to conduct some business with you." His voice was rather dry, and his expression was a bit nervous. In an instant, Long Chun understood their intention. It seemed that this elder was forced to come here by these people who were after his heaven-earth cauldron. "You wish to buy my bronze cauldron?" Long Chen's gaze swept over those experts. "Do you truly have the heaven-earth cauldron?" The skeletal life form spoke with an inhuman voice, sounding like white bones rubbing against each other, and it stabbed into people's souls. Long Chen glanced at that life form. What a lacking question. How am I supposed to know if that bronze cauldron is the heaven-earth cauldron? When I obtained it, I had no idea what its origins were. It was the Soaring Dragon Company that swore it was the heaven-earth cauldron. And what kind of existence is the Soaring Dragon Company? They are renowned businessmen. How could they possibly lie about such a thing? If you offer a decent price, I'll sell it. Truly, I really am sincere. Why would you even worry about it? In any case, there's the Soaring Dragon Company as a guarantee. If the Soaring Dragon Company really did lie to you, couldn't you just join forces and smash the Soaring Dragon Company? Their business is spread far and wide. As long as you do the same thing as me, I guarantee you'll profit immensely. There's more than enough for us to share. That elder from the Soaring Dragon Company was horrified by Long Chen's words, so he hastily said, "Don't spout nonsense. When did we ever say that we would guarantee anything? You refuse to guarantee it? Then why would you spread word of it so far and wide? In the violet flame heaven, you repeatedly said that my bronze cauldron was the heaven-earth cauldron. What, now you're changing the story? How can anyone believe you when you say that you're not an idiot then?" demanded Long Chun. "Who are you calling an idiot? So you're not an idiot? Then as businessmen, if you say things without confirming their veracity, who would do business with you? How can you say that you're trying to do business with me? Either you guarantee that my cauldron is the heaven-earth cauldron, or you're not trustworthy a businessman." Scram. Long Chun pointed at the elder and cursed so wildly that saliva was spurting toward the latter. Hearing this, the elder was enraged yet was left too stunned to retort. Back in the violet flame heaven, they had insisted that Long Chun had the heaven-earth cauldron. It was only later on that they grew afraid of the consequences and switched to saying that they suspected Long Chun of having the heaven-earth cauldron, not knowing the real origins of the bronze cauldron. After that, Long Chun used that cauldron to shake an eternal divine weapon, freeing the great desolate winged devil's corpse. That was something seen by countless people. Now, people truly began to wonder if it was the heaven-earth cauldron. Because of that, 6 experts from different races got in touch with the Soaring Dragon Company, forcing them to say whether or not Long Chun really had the heaven-earth cauldron. The Soaring Dragon Company was left dumbfounded. How would they know whether it was real or not? If they said it was true and it turned out to be false, they would offend countless people. But if they said it was fake, they would have been scamming people, which would also offend countless people. Having not expected things to develop to this point, the Soaring Dragon Company came up with all kinds of excuses, brushing off any attempts to get to the bottom of the matter. As a result, some people lost their patience and directly flipped the table, forcing the Soaring Dragon Company to give them an answer. But what answer could the Soaring Dragon Company give them? Forced to this extent, they agreed to send someone to ask Long Chun for verification. Considering that the Soaring Dragon Company was mortal enemies with Long Chun, for them to come to his door like this was an extremely humiliating thing for them. So, this elder was the unlucky fellow who was forced to take this mission, burdened not only with the humiliation it entailed, but also the looming fear of incurring the wrath of the 6 others who had forced him to come. He was in an extremely precarious position. "Show us your bronze cauldron," demanded the skeletal life form. "Do you think I'll take it out just because you want it? Who do you think you are?" sneered Long Chun. "I'm from the Bone Devil Desolate Domain." This life form actually answered, not understanding Long Chun's intention. He actually thought that Long Chun was asking about his origins. "Don't waste my time with this bullshit. It's you who sought to purchase my goods, not the other way around, alright? Keep in mind, you approached me, so you have to show your sincerity by coming from a lower position. I don't care what your status or cultivation base is. I'll say it again. Fix your attitude or else forget it." Long Chun looked down on that skeletal life form. Hearing such disrespect, that life form was enraged. Black chi swirled out of him as if he was about to explode. "Who do you think you're trying to scare? Why don't you just try and touch me?" sneered Long Chun. As expected, that life form ultimately didn't dare to do so, afraid of the curse. The curtains to the Sage King convention had formally opened, so it was almost a sure thing for him to be cursed if he were to attack now. "Hee, that's right. We're doing business, right? We should get along better. That's the only way to pull off our business successfully," chortled Long Chun. Long Chun then turned to the Soaring Dragon Company's elder. "If you want to buy my bronze cauldron, it's not outside the realm of question. However, I have a condition." Hearing that, the elder was delighted and hastily asked, "What is the condition?" Long Chun leisurely said, "Your Soaring Dragon Company can hold an auction. In this auction, you can gather appraisers and other sellers. To tell the truth, your Soaring Dragon Company really is despicable. You tried to use the name of the Heaven-Earth Cauldron to get me killed. Truthfully, neither of us knows the origins of this bronze cauldron. But with my current power, I'm unable to use it, so it's a waste. That is why I am hoping to get rid of this hot potato while I can. If it is the real thing, I'm hoping to get some items that I need. If it's fake, I want your Soaring Dragon Company to kneel on the ground and apologize to me." You've gone too far," roared the elder from the Soaring Dragon Company. How was he supposed to accept this condition? If it really was fake, would the Soaring Dragon Company have any face left to exist? "You're the one who went too far. You kept saying that my bronze cauldron is the Heaven-Earth Cauldron. You tried to get me killed, so don't talk to me about going too far. My time is precious, so hurry up. If you do not have the authority to decide, go and ask. I'll give you 3 days. If you can't give me an answer within that period, I will ask the Huayun Trading Company to hold this auction. If it weren't for my close relationship with the Huayun Trading Company, which might cause rumors that we're colluding to sell a fake item, do you think I'd be willing to let you bastards get anything?" "Scram!" sneered Long Chun. "Fine, I'll ask. Just wait for our reply," said the elder gloomily. "Brat, if the Soaring Dragon Company agrees and you back out of the deal, I guarantee that you will regret coming to this world," said one of the other heaven venerates who hadn't spoken yet. Being threatened, Long Chun immediately slapped him in the face, striking him solidly and sending him flying. "Who do you think you're talking to? Make sure to be more polite in the future." That innate heaven venerate had never expected a lowly human to dare to slap him. He was sent tumbling into the distance. The next moment, blood chi exploded out of him. Blood race. Long Chun was startled. This expert who looked similar to the human race was actually from the blood race. I'll kill you. Blood chi and killing intent erupted from that heaven venerate. Come, I'll stick out my neck and let you kill me. Well, Long Chun really did stick out his neck as though he was begging for a beating. He even pointed at his own nose. That blood race expert quivered with rage, his veins throbbing on his forehead. He was an overlord in his domain, a respected innate heaven venerate, but he was actually slapped in the face by a human? That was an absolute humiliation. However, when Long Chun really stuck out his neck and asked to be killed, he instantly calmed down. If he were to attack Long Chun, perhaps the curse of misfortune would strike him even before Long Chun died. In the past few days, dozens of innate heaven venerates had been struck by the curse of misfortune, becoming lessons for the others. Thus, although he was infuriated, he still had a trace of rationality left, so he didn't dare to actually attack. Scram! Long Chun snorted, and 7 innate heaven venerates could only leave while clenching their teeth. Seeing Long Chun shout away 7 innate heaven venerates, Guoran looked at him worshipfully. Just when would he have his boss's daring? Boss is mighty. Xiachen also raised his thumb. However, boss, the Soaring Dragon Company's old ghosts have no shame. Your condition probably won't bind them. TCH, who is trying to bind them? When the time comes and they inspect it, they'll say that it could still be the real thing or fake, and then they wouldn't need to kowtow to me. This way, even if they realize that it is fake, they won't dare to say it. That's my goal, laughed Long Chun. Haha, boss is wise. Now, we're in an unbeatable position. Guoran also laughed after he understood Long Chun's plan. The Soaring Dragon Company would not dare to say that it was fake, as it was their only way out. At the very least, they had proof that it wasn't a definite fake because Long Chun had used it to strike an eternal divine weapon. Thus, it might really sell for the price of at least an eternal divine weapon. If the one betting was unlucky, perhaps it might even be sold for a sky-high price. As this bronze cauldron was nothing more than a counterfeit that Guoran and Xiachen had made, they were even more excited than Long Chun. If the two of you have time, help me create another bronze cauldron, said Long Chun. Another one? The two of them were startled. Just do it if you have time. Last time, striking the eternal spear let me gather some more rust. As long as you can create it, there will be a use for it, said Long Chun with an evil smile. All right, if we hurry, we can make another one. Although they weren't sure what Long Chun was planning, that smile of his made them feel incredibly excited. Time was pressing, so Long Chun quickly gathered the Starry River Line's experts. Starting from the first star diagram, he began to explain all the way to the final Starry River divine pool. He even showed them how to use the divine astral techniques. When they saw an entire arm covered in small stars, they were stunned. Although they already knew that the Starry River of the Sky Art was a terrifying technique and they still had a long path in front of them, they hadn't expected that when trained to the pinnacle, they could even use stars to strengthen their body. Long Chen's starry arm possessed an immense power that excited them. They knew that as long as they worked hard, sooner or later, they could also possess such power. Feeling extremely grateful to Long Chun for his generosity in sharing this technique, they started to look at him like a god. As long as Long Chun gave the order, they would be willing to run into boiling oil for him or cut themselves to the bone by charging through a mountain of blades. For Long Chun, comprehending this technique was very easy, but explaining it was a bit more taxing, especially in a way that everyone could understand. However, he knew that comprehension needed time, as well as a certain amount of luck. Not comprehending immediately was not a problem. They just had to remember what he said and slowly think about it in the future. Long Chun then spent 2.5 days explaining everything he could. Originally, he was planning on checking the territory of the High Firmament Academy in this place, but there wasn't enough time. The Soaring Dragon Company had been kept outside for a full day with their reply. Oh, how coincidental. We meet again. So, what does your Soaring Dragon Company want? Long Chun went to see the same elder. The elder had been kept out for a full day by Long Chun and had been nursing a belly of fire. However, he didn't dare to unleash it on Long Chun and could only clench his teeth. Our Soaring Dragon Company can do this business with you. But we also have a condition. Oh? You also have a condition? How novel. What is your condition? Asked Long Chun. The elder raised a finger. A 10% commission. 10%? So little? Ugh, fine, I don't want to bother haggling with you too much. If the auction does pan out, you can just pay me the fee on the spot, said Long Chun. What? The elder from the Soaring Dragon Company left while clenching his teeth furiously. He looked like he wanted to bite Long Chun to death. If an auction house assisted someone in selling an item, they typically charged a minimum commission fee of 10%. Some particularly audacious ones might even demand as much as 30%. However, Long Chun actually wanted them to pay him a commission fee instead. In all the elder's years, it was his first time encountering such a thing. It had to be known that the Soaring Dragon Company had actually told him to ask for a 20% commission fee. However, this elder lacked confidence and didn't dare to ask for such an amount, fearing that it might upset Long Chun. Thus, he opted for the minimum acceptable commission fee. But surprisingly, Long Chun actually countered by requesting an extra 10% of the final sale price. The reason he gave was that they were using his item to draw many people to the auction. Since the auction house wouldn't be just auctioning one item, they could profit from the other items as well. Moreover, considering that it would attract countless experts, they might be so shameless as to charge an entrance fee, right? What? Would they really be so rude as to not show their appreciation for Long Chun, considering that he had helped them generate substantial profits by offering the Heaven-Earth Cauldron? That little speech left the elder speechless. In the end, Long Chun got impatient and said that if the elder wanted to collaborate, they could. Otherwise, he could scram. If they really refused to accept, he would just hold his own auction on it. The elder quivered with fury, but with no other choice. He simply said that he didn't have the authority to make such a decision and would have to report it. However, Long Chun knew that they would accept. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to explain themselves to their clients. As expected, the elder returned in half a day, his face resembling a ripe melon. There was such intense hatred in his eyes that it seemed like Long Chun had robbed his ancestors' tombs. In the end, it was decided that the auction would be carried out 7 days later, and the Heaven-Earth Cauldron would be the ultimate item. Furthermore, everything really did go as Long Chun had expected. The Soaring Dragon Company shamelessly began to sell tickets for the auction, and they weren't cheap either. It was 100 World King crystals for a single ticket, and that was only the lowest level. The better tickets were hundreds of World King crystals, and the VIP tickets cost thousands of World King crystals. I'm starting to regret it. 10% commission is a bit, started Long Chun. Don't go too far. That elder from the Soaring Dragon Company jumped like a cat whose tail was stepped on. Fine, I can't be bothered to haggle. We'll leave it at that, said Long Chun. These words were said under the recording of a photographic jade, so their agreement was set. The Soaring Dragon Company then proposed that Long Chun entrust the Heaven-Earth Cauldron to them for safekeeping, but he promptly declined. He naturally didn't trust them. They also knew that this was too unrealistic, so they didn't argue much about it. After settling things, the elder left. After this matter was handled, Long Chun found that the Starry River sect was also doing fine. Seeing the disciples busy comprehending the starry river of the sky art, he just said goodbye and set off. Long Chun left on his own, as Xia Chun and Guoran were busy creating a second Heaven-Earth Cauldron, while the Dragonblood warriors were spreading word and looking for others from the Dragonblood Legion. They were all to meet up in the Starry River sect. In order to be safe, Long Chun had them stick in groups of 100 people. That way, even against peak experts, they would still have some ability to fight. Moreover, they all had communication tools so that they could reinforce each other the moment they encountered danger. The good news was that the Sage King Convention still needed a bit more time to get started. During this time, Long Chun found that many sect buildings had been constructed, with some still in the process of expansion. However, he also noticed many areas where the buildings had sprung up, but there were no signs of people in sight. Their inheritance remains, but no one inherits it. Looking at those empty buildings, Long Chun couldn't help but sigh. Each of those buildings represented the inheritance of some sect or power. Since the palaces remained, it meant that those inheritances were not fully severed yet. However, the Sage King Convention required the attendees to be at the Immortal King realm. Currently, the Sage King Prefecture was bustling with immortal kings from various sections. Yet, there were certain inheritances that lacked even a single immortal king in attendance, leaving their palaces vacant. In certain locations, the ruins remained ruins, signifying that these inheritances had been completely severed. As Long Chun walked through this place, he drew numerous curious glances. People just whispered amongst themselves as he passed by. The current Long Chun could count as having some fame within the entire human race, and most of this fame stemmed from the Heaven-Earth Cauldron. To maximize their profit, the Soaring Dragon Company was disseminating information about this auction as hard as they could, spreading Long Chun's name along with it. Thus, when these people looked at Long Chun, it was like they were looking at the Heaven-Earth Cauldron. Countless people were filled with greed, and some people even wanted to take it. But no one actually dared to attack or even provoke him. Long Chun paid them no heed. He continued in his chosen direction, quickening his pace with each step. The farther he ventured, the more he noticed buildings that were gradually taking shape at a slow pace. Some buildings still had no roofs, but the auras of the people within them shook his heart. He also saw supremes far beyond other supremes, which gave him a sense of immense pressure. When he walked past their gates, he drew their attention, so those heavenly geniuses eyed Long Chun coldly. If it weren't for their elders shouting at them, they might really have tried to attack Long Chun just to test him. Long Chun had the Minghong saber on his back, his brows furrowing as an invisible killing intent slowly rose out of him. Originally, he had thought that only the beast race's heads were so simple. However, in the human race's territory, this kind of thing was even more common. Just what was with these people's heads? All of them were like angry bulls that had encountered another bull. They wanted to fight for no reason at all. It was like only by killing the other side could they find meaning in their lives. He had been provoked several times now. Their greedy gazes were like they were far above others, as if everyone else was just an ant and could be wiped out whenever they wanted, completely infuriating Long Chun. If those people dared to attack him, he guaranteed that not one of them would live to see tomorrow's sun. Long Chun was so incredibly enraged that he didn't even know why he was so angry. But that anger came from the depths of his soul and could not be contained. Fortunately, they didn't attack him. After a while of walking, Long Chun eventually saw a vast sea up ahead. There was a large mass of ruins on the coast. Just as Long Chun arrived at the edge of the ruins, he suddenly heard Bai Shirshir's voice. "You're late. I thought that you had forgotten about the High Firmament Academy." Long Chun heard Bai Shirshir's voice the moment he set foot into those ruins. Following that voice, he saw the beautiful Bai Shirshir in a golden dress standing not too far away. A golden divine radiance enveloped her, and even amidst the ruins, these dilapidated structures seemed to exude a hint of grandeur solely because of her presence. What was different from before was that Bai Shirshir now had a sword on her back. That was the sword that Long Chun had taken from the strange life form on the ghost ship. Her golden dress billowed gracefully around her. She was already a peerless beauty, but the divine light that enveloped her enhanced her regal aura, leaving those who saw her feeling inherently inferior by mere comparison. As Bai Shirshir cast a cold gaze upon Long Chun, he responded with a gradual, warm smile. Their eyes locked in a silent exchange, and in no time at all, Bai Shirshir found herself unable to restrain a blush from creeping onto her cheeks. She wanted to turn away and not look at him, but that would be admitting that she had lost. Thus, she continued to stubbornly stare at Long Chun. Seeing that she couldn't last, Long Chun spoke first. "I'm sorry, I had too many things to deal with, but as soon as I finished, I came here as quickly as possible. Where are Shaola and the others?" "Don't change the subject. Why didn't you bring Qingxian?" demanded Bai Shirshir. Long Chun instantly felt a headache. Her Qingxian is refining pills and in seclusion. I didn't want to call her out. Are you sure that's the reason? Is it not because you were afraid that I would do something to her? The main reason was because I thought that it would be a bit awkward, said Long Chen, his awkwardness quite palpable in his words. Awkward? Why? Are you afraid of me bullying her? Demanded Bai Shishir. How could that be? Why would you bully her? You're a kind person, said Long Chen hastily. You're a bad guy. I knew that you arrived earlier, so I spent days guarding this place because I was worried about being rude to Qingxian and making a bad impression if she came while I wasn't here. And you? Bai Shishir's eyes reddened, and a few tears leaked out. Long Chen was startled. Bai Shishir had actually come here much earlier? It seemed it was all to express her goodwill to Yu Qingxian. Long Chen knew Bai Shishir's character. She was someone who cared more about face and pride than her own life. But for him, she was willing to suffer this kind of grievance. Knowing this, Long Chen felt both moved and ashamed. I'm sorry. I've made you suffer. Long Chen walked over to Bai Shishir and held her hands. Stop. Others will see. Bai Shishir hastily pulled her hands out of Long Chen's grasp, feeling both shy and angry. The tears in her eyes were like crystals, and she was like the lofty pear flower that stood proudly against the rain. Her appearance was beautiful yet heartbreaking. Who cares if someone sees? I like you. I'm not afraid of others knowing, said Long Chen. Hearing this, Bai Shishir blushed even harder, but she was deeply moved inside. Although she had known Long Chen for so long, and even shared life and death with him, it was his first time making such a frank declaration. While it wasn't an overly serious declaration, it did reveal his true feelings to her. But although she liked it, she glared at him. Who has a face as thick as yours? Hee. Success. Looking into her rebuking gaze, Long Chen smiled inside. Finally, the sky was clear after the tempest, and he had passed this point. Shishir, you get more beautiful every time I see you. How did you do it? Scram, bastard. Don't try talking to me like that. You think saying a few nice words will make me forgive you? And what do you mean, how did I do it? Demanded Bai Shishir. Although she knew that Long Chen was attempting to ease her anger with his charming words, her current display of anger was feigned. In truth, the moment that she saw Long Chen, she was no longer angry. In fact, she almost hated herself. Originally, she had been planning on tormenting him for not coming to see her after so long. However, she found that she couldn't even muster up the energy to be angry. Was this the fate that her mother had warned her about? When a woman fell for a man, would she really no longer have the ability to struggle? You're increasingly beautiful, but I haven't made the slightest improvement. I'm still the same as before. When I'm with you, it's like a swan standing next to a toad, a phoenix beside a crow. The pressure is great. Long Chen shrugged helplessly, winking. Despite knowing that he was intentionally teasing her, Bai Shishir couldn't help but laugh, feeling both embarrassed and angry. She knew that she had lost this time. Bai Shishir then reached out and viciously pinched the soft flesh of Long Chen's waist. Aya! Long Chen cried out. Bai Shishir was truly vicious this time. That soft hand of hers instantly became a metal pincer, breaking even Long Chen's defenses. Hero, spare me, pleaded Long Chen. Who is a hero? Are you mocking me for not being womanly enough? Raged Bai Shishir. No, it was a slip of the tongue. Heroine, spare me. Long Chen hastily corrected himself. Only then did Bai Shishir glare at him and pull back her hand. She finally smiled with a pleased expression as her resentment faded away. If she wasn't a hero, what was she? Only a hero would have that much power. Long Chen rubbed his waist and saw that the pinched skin was already purple. Congratulations, Fairy Shishir. Your power has advanced yet again. Perhaps I'll need to rely on your protection in the future. I hope Senior can be magnanimous and keep me in your care, said Long Chen shamelessly. Why don't you heal? Doesn't it hurt? Asked Bai Shishir. It was my bad, so a punishment is only natural. Only with a bit of pain will I remember the lesson, said Long Chen. Furthermore, compared to what you went through, this is nothing. Although you never told me what price you paid. I know it. With this, Bai Shirshir suddenly threw herself into Long Chen's embrace. Her fists repeatedly struck his chest as she wept. "You bastard! Are you trying to take my life with those words?" Bai Shirshir was like an aggrieved child who had finally found an outlet. Someone as prideful as her had given up her pride. How could she not? She had previously looked down on her mother who was willing to share a man with another woman. But now she was even worse. Sometimes, she felt terrified and helpless. She didn't know why she put herself through this. Love was the curse with no cure. No matter how she struggled, she could not extricate herself from it. No matter how strong someone was, in front of love, they could only admit defeat. And yes, just those simple words from Long Chen caused her to feel like she had lost. She was gratified and panicked, while also feeling happy and bitter. In Long Chen's embrace, she finally felt true peace. Long Chen also let her vent, knowing just how much pain this prideful fairy had in her heart. Oh, when did the High Firmament Academy become a hookup place? Just then, a sinister voice rang out. Unbeknownst to them, a group of people had appeared near them. Long Chen was in the midst of grappling with guilt, so when someone hurled insults at him, his fury erupted instantly. On the other hand, Bai Shirshir, who had just realized their presence, swiftly averted her gaze and wiped away the tear stains on her face. Long Chen saw that the newcomers were an elder plus over 10 disciples trailing behind him. Some of the male disciples were breathtaken by Shirshir's appearance, so they cast jealous and disdainful gazes at Long Chen. "This is the High Firmament Academy's territory, and you are not welcome." "Scram!" said Long Chen coldly. "Who do you think you are to dare be presumptuous here?" sneered one of the disciples. When that man spoke, Long Chen instantly recognized him to be the one to previously speak as well. "You should keep your crap hole closed. I don't like you. Keep spouting crap, and I'll knock out your teeth," said Long Chen impatiently. "Brat, you're courting death." That person was enraged. Seeing that Bai Shirshir's dress bore the specific emblem of the High Firmament Academy on the sleeves and collar, he knew that she was a disciple of the High Firmament Academy. In contrast, Long Chen was wearing black robes with no visible markings at all, so he assumed that Long Chen was clearly someone from some lowly power. After all, any disciples that came from strong powers would clearly display their status. That would scare off more people and save them trouble. Seeing Bai Shirshir embracing some black-robed man, they thought that a disciple from the High Firmament Academy was colluding with someone from a foreign power, so they mocked them. Perhaps they felt a bit of trepidation when it came to the High Firmament Academy. But some disciples with no status marker on them? Even if such disciples were slain, the faction behind them would not be able to blame anyone. There was an unspoken rule. If you didn't reveal your status, then if you were slain, the killer couldn't be blamed for killing you. If you were trying to be deliberately mysterious and were slain because the other side didn't know who you were or what faction you were from, you could only blame yourself. Thus, people who didn't expose their status were usually killed for nothing. No matter how powerful the faction behind them was, it was very difficult for them to punish the killer. Long Chen's robes had no marker at all, so they didn't place him in their eyes. Furthermore, there were so many of them and Long Chen was just one person. "Don't. You shouldn't kill them," advised Bai Shirshir, pulling his hand. However, Bai Shirshir's judgment was not good. This was a slap in the faces of these people. "Don't kill us. I'll kill you." The first speaker was enraged and suddenly appeared behind Long Chen like a specter. He was bizarrely fast. Unexpectedly, a streak of golden light flashed, and that person's arm was cut off by a golden sword. With a shriek, he retreated. "What?" All those people who had come with him were shocked, including the innate heaven venerate. Even with his cultivation base, he didn't see how Bai Shirshir had just moved. "Do you know who he is? He is the youngest dean in the High Firmament Academy's history. Why don't you tell me whether or not he is qualified to tell you to scram?" said Bai Shirshir icily. "He is Long Chen?" They had heard of his name but hadn't known what he looked like. "The High Firmament Academy is quite arrogant. Is this how you treat guests?" The innate heaven venerate finally spoke. "Are you behaving like guests? You seem more like bandits." And it just so happens that my studies specialize in treating all kinds of arrogant people. If I tell you to scram, then scram. If you refuse to listen, then go ahead and attack me. It just so happens that I have a great deal of anger to vent, sneered Long Chun. Long Chun couldn't be bothered to be polite to these people. He found that whether it was the human race or the demonic beast race, if he wanted to get respect, he needed to be tough. The more courteous he was, the more people would climb all over him, thinking that he was afraid of them. All right. Is this the attitude of your High Firmament Academy? Are you sure you can represent the High Firmament Academy? Demanded the elder darkly. That's right. His attitude represents the attitude of the High Firmament Academy. Just then, an elderly voice rang out, delighting Long Chun with just its presence. It was the true dean of the High Firmament Academy, Bai Letian. Ha ha ha. Why spout nonsense about humility and etiquette? The current High Firmament Academy is no longer the old High Firmament Academy. Even your attitude has changed. The world's #1 academy? You've completely declined. We're leaving. The elder sneered and waved his hand, leading his people away. But my arm. The man whose arm was severed by Shirshir's sword was unwilling to leave just like that. He glared at Shirshir hatefully. Having an arm cut off is better than having your life ended. If it was me, you'd be on the path to reincarnation now. Having escaped with your life, you still aren't grateful. Are you a pig? Snorted Longchin. In truth, he had decided to kill them. If it weren't for Shirshir attacking first, this idiot would already be dead and wouldn't be able to prattle now. In the end, that man was dragged away by his companions. However, his gaze was filled with rancor as he left. This grudge would be remembered. After they left, Long Chun turned back to Shirshir and gave her a thumbs up. How amazing! That last strike of yours was incredible. Have you merged with your sword? Shirshir smiled and a rare crafty light appeared in her eyes. Were you also deceived? Long Chun nodded. Yes, that sword on your back is a fake. You don't even need to draw your sword to attack with it. Shirshir's previous blow was so bizarre that even Long Chun didn't see it clearly. It was only later that he figured it out. When Shirshir attacked, her sword appeared in her hand and then returned to her body after she finished. Thus, Long Chun guessed that Shirshir had managed to merge with this sword. Otherwise, there was no way to do such a thing. This sword's origins are shocking. I only managed to merge with it after returning from the 3,000 worlds. And once I merged with it, I realized that it is very likely an eternal divine weapon. I once used it to strike an eternal divine weapon, and it wasn't harmed in the slightest. I really have to thank you. This sword was the turning point of my life. Now, I have the confidence to get an outstanding ranking in the Sage King Convention. Shirshir's face glowed with confidence, her eyes full of excitement. She truly was confident in herself. There's no need for courteous words between us. Ah, that's right. I have to greet the dean. Long Chun clapped his forehead. He had actually forgotten about the dean. When Long Chun and Shirshir walked into the High Firmament Academy's camp, they found countless unfriendly gazes turning their way. No, it should be said turning toward him. Who are they? Long Chun entered the camp and saw many experts in foreign robes. Their gazes lit up when they saw Shirshir but darkened when they saw Long Chun with her. After that, they examined Long Chun without the slightest restraint, with some even using their souls to probe him. Long Chun was disgusted by them as this kind of conduct was extremely rude. Although it couldn't count as a humiliation, it was extremely uncomfortable. They came to study, answered Shirshir. To study? Shirshir helplessly said. After all, the High Firmament Academy is the oldest academy of the 9 heavens and 10 lands. It is a treasure of the human race. It is said that the founder swore to use the Tao and reason to bring living beings to the correct path, allowing everyone to differentiate between right and wrong, good and evil. Then everyone could escape the sea of bitterness. Because of this oath, the gates of the High Firmament Academy are open to all, and any life form is qualified to study in the High Firmament Academy. However, later on, it is said that the human race was targeted by other races, and battles were fought for many years. Some of them were even once disciples of the academy, but they still attacked the academy. I don't know which generation's dean started it, but eventually, they set a rule that the academy would only be open to humans, and other races would have to go through tests if they wanted to enter. Due to this, the academy declined even more, looking like it would be destroyed eventually. Thus, not many people wanted to join the academy. The High Firmament Academy couldn't even save itself, so as it declined, people no longer believed that the academy could rise again. Some powers even began to eye the academy as a large meal. You also saw how we were treated in the Dark Light Heaven. It has been many generations since the High Firmament Academy attended the Sage King Convention. Without us coming, the academy's ruins also stopped appearing. It was only a few days ago that we arrived and the ruins once more appeared. As a result, some people were attracted by our name. To put it frankly, they just came to take advantage of the situation. As for the academy, due to our ancestors' wishes, we could only allow them to enter, said Bai Shirshir, eyeing these people with a touch of disgust. She had been standing at the gate for several days, waiting for Long Chun. Thus, quite a few people who viewed themselves as handsome geniuses came to ingratiate themselves with her. Bai Shirshir was patient, but in the end, she had to cut off a few hands before they learned their lesson and distanced themselves from her. But even though they stayed away from her, they still talked about her behind her back. She was naturally disgusted by that, as she was an extremely prideful person. Other than Long Chun, no one else could enter her eyes. These people were practically like peacocks flashing their feathers at her. So she found herself thinking that they were particularly childish and disgusting. However, as long as these people didn't provoke her, she didn't have a reason to attack them. So she could only endure it. These young disciples were all brimming with arrogance, believing that the one who could engage Bai Shirshir in conversation would be seen as the boldest among them, akin to a crane amidst a flock of chickens. Bai Shirshir naturally ignored this group of immature fellows, only waiting for Long Chun. Now that Long Chun had appeared, the previous iciness of her face was gone. She was even smiling. This scene caused these fellows to feel extremely unnatural. They had done everything they could to draw her attention, but Bai Shirshir hadn't even looked at them. After all, they were all arrogant and conceited heavenly geniuses, so such a blow was quite painful to them. The only thing that made them feel better about themselves was that all of them had failed to draw Bai Shirshir's attention. But as soon as Long Chun appeared, he was walking right beside Bai Shirshir while she was smiling, the very picture of a young maiden in love. As they weren't blind, they could see that Bai Shirshir liked this black-robed fellow. I see now. The Academy's founder must have been a truly benevolent individual. Perhaps he sought a path that could bring about universal harmony among all people. Long Chun remarked with a nod. The notion that the founder wished to disseminate the Academy's knowledge for the greater good deeply touched Long Chun. After all, knowledge belonged to everyone. It came from everyone, and now it was specifically provided to everyone. That was a bit like the sea whale returning its corpse back to the sea. Knowledge was like a mirror. Perhaps through it you could see yourself clearly. However, it seemed that such a thing was difficult to carry out in reality. In an instant, Long Chun and Bai Shirshir drew everyone's attention. Many of those people were looking at some stone tablets when their attention was drawn to them. Long Chun simply ignored them and continued walking with Bai Shirshir. He found that the High Firmament Academy's buildings here were still incomplete. Even the foundations had yet to be built. However, various runes had appeared throughout the foundations. All kinds of murals could be seen, and these were things that Long Chun had not seen in the actual academy. The oldest academy of the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Could it be that the Sage King Convention's buildings are restored based on the age of the inheritance? Wondered Long Chun. Long Chun came up with such a theory because the Starry River sect had long since finished rebuilding. After all, the Starry River sect's inheritance couldn't be considered too ancient in the immortal world. The dean said that one aspect was the age of the inheritance. But the members of that inheritance, the influence of the heavenly Taos, the rise and fall of karmic luck, and many other aspects caused the building rate to be different, explained by Shirshir. Then does that mean the High Firmament Academy is the strongest of the human forces here? Asked Long Chun with a smile. How ignorant. Bai Shirshir didn't have a chance to respond before someone from the side let out a disdainful scoff at Long Chun. Oh? How am I ignorant? Long Chun looked at this guy and found that he was a supreme expert with a very powerful aura. That supreme expert sneered. When it comes to being the strongest, when has it ever been your High Firmament Academy's turn? The building rate has nothing to do with how strong a faction is. Little fellow, words can't be randomly spoken, or you'll just slap yourself in the face. Well, that would be interesting as well. Upon hearing his words, Bai Shirshir's expression sank. She was about to speak when Long Chun pulled her hand, indicating her to leave it to him. Seeing this, those heavenly geniuses were even more enraged. Someone as prideful as Bai Shirshir actually listened after Long Chun pulled her hand? They felt a profound feeling of defeat. In their eyes, Long Chun might possess a powerful blood chi, but he had no supreme aura. He could only be considered as a below-average disciple compared to them. Someone like this had won the favor of a heavenly fairy. They all thought that it was only due to Long Chun's looks. He was just a little pretty boy with no substance. Long Chun still smiled pleasantly after hearing that supreme heavenly genius's mocking. He came up to him and said, "It seems I really was ignorant. Then please tell me what faction of the human race is the strongest in your opinion." That person arrogantly said, "Of course it's our Heavenly Gate profound sect." That was precisely what Long Chun was waiting for. The moment he said it, Long Chun's expression sank and he viciously swung his hand at his face. "If you're the strongest, what the fuck are you doing here?" This heavenly genius had not expected Long Chun to get right up next to him just to slap him. Furthermore, Long Chun had laid a trap with his words. He was precisely waiting for this response. The next moment, Long Chun's slap sent him tumbling into the distance, leaving him dazed. As he struggled to regain his footing, he raised a trembling finger to point at Long Chun, intending to unleash a barrage of curses. However, before he could utter a single word, a sudden burst of blood sprayed from his mouth. He then felt the world spinning around him, and his eyes rolled back, causing him to collapse on the group. "You! How despicable! This was a sneak attack!" One of his friends hastily went to support him and shouted at Long Chun angrily. "Even without sneak attacks, none of you are my match. I can't be bothered to waste words with you. You think you're a badass? Then why did you come to the High Firmament Academy? Who granted you the audacity to display such arrogance while seeking our knowledge? If you really were a badass, you wouldn't have come to our High Firmament Academy. Since you've come to learn, then you better cultivate some humility. If you can manage that, then you can stay. Otherwise, scram. Slapping you is a light punishment. If you really anger me, you won't get to live another day." Long Chun smiled coldly at those arrogant heavenly geniuses. Those people had to be stupid. They had come here to learn but still had such an attitude? Were their brains replaced with crap? "Who are you? Do you think the High Firmament Academy is your home?" shouted someone stubbornly. "Correct. This is our home. You don't like it? Even if you don't like it, you have to accept it. If you want to study in the High Firmament Academy, you have to take the attitude of a student and respect the rules here. Starting now, anyone who disobeys the Academy's rules will be kicked out. Mercy will not be given. If anyone from a certain faction breaks the Academy's rules, then they will all be kicked out," declared Long Chun. He then ignored these people and continued on with Bai Shirshir. These heavenly geniuses were all shaken, unable to imagine just what kind of status this black-robed fellow had to say such big words. Walking alongside Bai Shirshir, Long Chun eventually reached the core of the ruins. He saw quite a few disciples from other factions and not many from the actual academy. What is going on? Has the High Firmament Academy been occupied by other factions? Long Chun couldn't help frowning. Long Chun saw quite a few jealous gazes on the way, as well as quite a few provoking ones. He truly did want to kick them all out. However, before understanding what was going on, he should endure for a bit. But his patience was wearing thin. It doesn't count as occupied yet. Just then, the kindly-looking Bai Letian appeared in front of Long Chun. Long Chun and Bai Shirshir immediately bowed. Bai Letian laughed and said, When the High Firmament Academy was founded, we had the support of various major powers. Like rolling a snowball, the Academy grew stronger and stronger. Only then did it come to possess its vast sea of knowledge. So, it could be said that the High Firmament Academy belongs to the entire world, and we can't be selfish. Our hearts have to be a bit wider. But these people are taking advantage of our kindness. I'm not happy about it. Long Chun couldn't help but frown. You're not happy about it? Haha, I share your sentiment, but I must abide by our founder's will. My authority is limited. However, you earned your position through merit rather than inheritance, so you aren't bound by our ancestral traditions. Also, I'm not here for the Sage King Convention. I have a separate mission. Therefore, everything here is up to you, said Bai Letian with a smile. You're saying? Probed Long Chun. I'm not saying anything. It's all up to you. Bai Letian smiled profoundly. Long Chen's jaw dropped suddenly. He recalled that Bai Letian had the aura of an immortal king, and the latter had even fought Enputa's clone like that. However, now he noticed that Bai Letian not only had the immortal king's aura but also the aura of a world king and a heaven venerate. Long Chun was utterly incapable of discerning Bai Letian's true cultivation level. It was his first time encountering such a thing. Seeming to grasp Long Chen's thought, Bai Letian said, Sometimes, what you see in this world is only what other people want you to see. Your eyes might not see reality. This time, the Sage King Convention descended rather suddenly. It's a bit odd, so I had no choice but to personally take a trip. But now that you're here, I feel good about leaving. Everything here will be up to you. Dean, you can't. I still have a great deal of affairs to deal with. Long Chen jumped in shock. Before the convention actually started, he still had a lot of work to do. No problem. The Battle God Palace's master is overseeing this place personally, so the High Firmament Academy is in no danger. However, the palace master doesn't like to deal with politics and is only in charge of the safety here. He won't meddle in other matters, so your main duty is to maintain order here. Feel free to pursue your own objectives, said Bai Letian. But Long Chun still didn't want this burden. He was very busy with the matter of the auction right now. If he were to be here, he would be acting as a dean of the High Firmament Academy. Then it wouldn't be convenient for him to scam people. No buts. Youngsters should follow their desires instead of becoming like us, always burdened by excessive caution and worry. If a youngster doesn't have a youngster's drive and daring, they wouldn't be called a youngster. Do what you want. Status and position are nonsensical constructs. Since I still have matters to deal with, I'll take my leave. Go greet the palace master. Bai Letian left and directly sent them off. Long Chun and Bai Shirshir could only leave. Looking at Long Chen's bitter expression, Bai Shirshir couldn't help but laugh. What is it? You're not the Long Chen I know. What happened to that fearlessness of yours? Shirshir, I'm about to do something very bad. I'm worried about damaging the Academy's reputation, said Long Chen finally. Bai Shirshir laughed. As if you've ever done anything good. Long Chun was speechless. But thinking back, it truly did seem as if he had never done anything good in the presence of Bai Shirshir. It's fine. Whatever you do, I'll be with you. Whether you become a hero or a villain, I'm not afraid. So what are you afraid of? Bai Shirshir blushed slightly after saying that. It was embarrassing for her to disclose the words of her heart. Hee, is this the saying, if you marry a chicken, you must follow the chicken, if you marry a dog, you must follow the dog? Laughed Long Chen. Who said that I'd marry you? Shameless. Bai Shirshir snorted and turned away. Cough. Just as the two were talking and laughing, they heard some awkward coughing sound. Unbeknownst to them, 3 people had silently appeared before them. One of them was Bai Shirshir's father, Bai Zhantong, while the second one was a large, muscular man. However, it was the person standing between them that caused Long Chun to startle. Greetings, Palace Master. Bai Shirshir dragged Long Chun to bow toward this person together. Palace Master? Long Chun was shaken. The Palace Master was actually an expert of the dragon race. The Palace Master appeared to be in his 30s, possessing a physique akin to an iron tower and a tanned complexion. Primal chaos runes seemed to swirl within his eyes. However, not one bit of his aura leaked out, so it was impossible to gauge his power based on his aura alone. It was only thanks to the 9-star Hegemon body art that Long Chun was able to sense the Palace Master's hidden power beneath his calm exterior. This feeling was something Long Chun had only sensed from Su Jianxiong's body. Most unexpected of all was that the Palace Master actually possessed the powerful aura of the dragon race. Long Chun, owing to his own dragon bloodline, had incredibly acute senses in this regard. He couldn't be mistaken, which was precisely why he found this revelation so astonishing. "Brat, what are you staring at? Shouldn't you greet the Palace Master?" said Bai Zhantong irritably upon seeing Long Chun with Bai Shishir. In his heart, his daughter was like a heavenly fairy, while Long Chun was a glib-tongued, flippant brat who was not a suitable match for his daughter. Just now, Bai Shishir had pulled Long Chun down, but Long Chun was too shocked by the Palace Master's status, so his movements were too stiff. As a result, Bai Zhantong couldn't help chiding him. "No need." The Palace Master waved his hand, also staring at Long Chun with a look of surprise in his eyes. After staring at Long Chun for a moment, he nodded, seemingly pleased. After that, the Palace Master turned and left without saying another word. Seeing this scene, Bai Shishir couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy, wondering whether Long Chun's lack of politeness had offended the Palace Master and led to his abrupt departure. "Dean Long Chun, with Dean Bai's departure, everything here has been left for you to manage. Also, the Palace Master isn't one to indulge in words. Speaking isn't his forte. We trust you possess greater expertise in this area. But if moving mouth alone isn't enough and you need to move fists, the Palace Master will happily help you," said the expert standing beside Bai Zhantong. For him to stand beside Bai Zhantong meant that he had a similar status. In other words, both of them were Vice Palace Masters of the Battle God Palace. This time, Long Chun could discern that Bai Zhantong was actually a heaven venerate. While he maintained the appearance of an immortal king on the surface, he couldn't mask this fact from Long Chun's senses. However, Long Chun also sensed something odd about his auras. It felt like his body had a seal in it, intentionally suppressing his cultivation base and hiding his aura. Long Chun wouldn't have been able to discern Bai Zhantong's actual cultivation level had he not cultivated the 9-star Hegemon body art. The High Firmament Academy had indeed concealed their power deeply. What perplexed Long Chun the most was that in the Darklight Heaven, he had witnessed Bai Zhantong engage in numerous battles where they had been pushed to the brink. So why had he not released the seal on his cultivation base during those critical moments? Long Chun refused to believe that Bai Zhantong had somehow advanced this far ever since Long Chun's departure from the High Firmament Academy. Furthermore, Bai Zhantong's aura was different from an ordinary heaven venerate's. It seemed to be a mix of an acquired and innate heaven venerate's aura. This discovery showed Long Chun that the name of the oldest academy in the 9 heavens and 10 lands was not mere embellishment. They had indeed concealed their true capabilities with great finesse. Thinking back, the fact that these powers targeted the High Firmament Academy was truly laughable. It was like ants trying to devour a slumbering dragon. "The Dean has entrusted this place to me. I definitely won't disappoint the Dean or the Palace Master." Long Chun cupped his fists. Since things had progressed to this point, there was no point in objecting. With the High Firmament Academy's profound foundation, they didn't need to worry about him messing around. Then he wouldn't stand on courtesy. Furthermore, Long Chun vaguely felt that the reason Bai Letian had him take charge must be because he had his own plans. Perhaps he was hoping for Long Chun to cause some trouble. "Then we'll trouble Dean Long Chun. I'll take my leave first and not intrude on your family reunion." That person laughed and patted Bai Zhantong's shoulder before leaving. Now it was just Bai Zhantong, Bai Shishir, and Long Chun. Long Chun looked at his father-in-law's dark expression and instantly felt embarrassed. It seemed that this father-in-law of his had never had a good opinion of him. "Palace Master, do you have any instructions for me?" Seeing him not speaking, Long Chun could only take the initiative. This way, if Bai Zhantong didn't have anything to say, he could leave. Wouldn't he feel embarrassed sticking around when his fellow Vice Palace Master had left? Humph. Bai Zhantong opened his mouth several times, but he didn't know what to say. In the end, he just snorted and left. Long Chun shrugged to Bai Shirshir helplessly, saying that he had been courteous and her father was the one who didn't like him. Bai Shirshir simply smiled and brushed it off. In any case, she didn't really talk to her father much anyway. Boss! Just then, Bai Shaola came running over, crying out excitedly. It wasn't just Bai Shaola. Qin Feng, Qi Yu, Mu Qingyun, Luo Bing, Luo Ning, Zhong Ling, Zhong Xiu, and many other familiar faces appeared. They were all incomparably excited, especially Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu. Having not taken part in the 3000 Worlds, they hadn't seen Long Chun since he left the High Firmament Academy. Long Chun had changed all of their lives, so they were grateful to him. After he left, they felt like they had lost a pillar that held them up. Fortunately, Bai Shirshir and Bai Shaola had entered the 3000 Worlds and brought back news of him, gratifying them all. Still, now that they saw him again, they couldn't contain their excitement. Big brother Long Chun, we missed you. Zhong Ling ran over to Long Chun and wept. Long Chun had always viewed them as his little sisters. Seeing her weeping, his heart ached and he wiped away her tears while joking with her, trying to make her happy. Once their emotions settled a bit, Long Chun asked Luo Bing and Luo Ning, "How is the Luo family doing lately?" "The Luo family has disappeared." Upon hearing his question, Luo Ning and Luo Bing's eyes reddened. "Disappeared? How can that be? When did this happen?" asked Long Chun hastily. "It happened right after the 3000 Worlds ended. When we returned to the Luo family, all that remained was a giant hole. It was like someone had just dug it out. Other than us in the academy, we are unable to get in contact with anyone else. We don't know if even the always staunch Luo Bing couldn't help tearing up. After the 3000 Worlds? Long Chun instantly thought of his grandfather. They had undone the seal back then. Was it his grandfather's doing? "Don't worry. I think I know what happened. I'll tell you later. They should all be safe," comforted Long Chun. Luo Bing and Luo Ning were overjoyed to hear that. This matter had been a constant heavy weight on their hearts. But Long Chun actually knew the cause of this matter. In an instant, they felt relieved of a heavy burden. It really was good having Long Chun present. Just as everyone was talking, they heard a ruckus coming from the distance. Bai Shaola couldn't help furiously saying, "These people have gone too far. They've actually entered the core of our academy's land. We already told them that we weren't even qualified to go there. How dare they?" The ruckus grew louder and they even heard people starting to curse. Upon hearing this, Long Chun's expression sank. "Let's go. We'll teach them a lesson. When I give you the signal, beat them to death. There's no need to give them any face." Just what is your High Firmament Academy doing? How many generations has it been since you last participated in the Sage King Convention? Now you're finally here, and you only let us wander the outer edge. Has your High Firmament Academy forgotten your ancestral teachings? The High Firmament Academy was built with the support of the entire human race. All your accomplishments are due to us. Now, you actually locked down the core area? Have you forgotten your roots? That is completely unjust. Call out your overseer. What did your High Firmament Academy promise back in the day? Didn't you say that everything in the High Firmament Academy would belong to the entire world? But what about now? Aren't you slapping yourselves in the face? How are you any different than a conman? Furious roars rang out one after another, coming from a group of disciples clad in various robes who found themselves barred from entering the core region's gates. The scene was rather chaotic and intense, with these disciples appearing on the brink of losing control. The High Firmament Academy's disciples who were guarding the gates were also panicking. They had already reported this to the higher-ups but had yet to receive any response. They didn't know how long they could maintain the situation. Seeing their panic, those people grew even more wanton. Some people directly pointed at the guards' noses and cursed them vulgarly, throwing all kinds of insults their way. The High Firmament Academy's disciples were enraged, but they were only a few hundred against hundreds of thousands. As a result, they didn't even dare to curse back. What #1 academy? What treasure of the world? All lies. Let's just attack together. We'll destroy this sanctimonious academy and turn it into ruins. The High Firmament Academy is a bully. After taking our things and promising to share them with us, you lied and kept them for yourselves. Everyone, let us reclaim what is ours. We'll see who dares to block us. Several voices were urging on the crowd, acting as if they were the wronged party. The discontent of the people was already simmering, and now, these provocateurs were adding fuel to the fire. In response, flames of fury ignited, and people really did charge toward the disciples guarding the gate. The High Firmament Academy's disciples were appalled. In this case, if they were killed, who could even find the killer? They didn't even know how they were supposed to face them. Yet all of a sudden, blood flew through the air. The ruckus, curses, and all the noises seemed to be cut off in an instant. Over 10 people had charged forward, and now over 10 heads flew through the air, their blood raining down. It was like a bucket of ice water had doused these individuals who had been consumed by their anger. They instantly calmed down, staring in horror at the newcomers. Keep roaring, keep shouting. Let me see just how arrogant you are to dare to run rampant in my High Firmament Academy. The black-robed Long Chun arrived at this critical time, causing all those guards to cheer. Long Chun was practically an idol in their eyes. You are going too far. How can you indiscriminately kill people here? Shouted one person. He had barely spoken when Mu Qingyun unsheathed her sword. The next moment, a bolt of lightning streaked through the air, cleaving that person in two. Mu Qingyun could be considered a genius of the sword Dao. Long Chun had once given her pointers, but since Long Chun wasn't a sword cultivator, his advice could only lead her to the initial stages of her journey. Afterward, Mu Qingyun had perused all kinds of tomes in the academy regarding the sword Dao. As she walked further and further down this path, her power grew increasingly terrifying. Could be said that what Long Chun had given Mu Qingyun was a key. After Mu Qingyun learned how to use this key, she learned to study various locks. Then, with all her experience, she began to create her own keys. In just a short time, Mu Qingyun had completely transformed. Currently, she was extremely famous in the High Firmament Academy, second only to Bai Shirshir in terms of reputation. At this moment, Mu Qingyun slowly sheathed her sword, her gaze calm. She didn't say a word, as if she had merely done something completely inconsequential. However, that one strike of hers left everyone, including the supreme heavenly geniuses, utterly astounded. After all, that strike possessed the power to claim even the lives of supreme heavenly geniuses who were unprepared for it. Long Chun suddenly extended a hand, and a startled cry rang from the crowd. It turned out that someone was lifted into the air by Long Chun through space, and no matter how they struggled, it was useless. Long Chun clenched his hand like a metal claw clutching that person's neck. He sneered. What? After lighting a fire and fanning the flames, do you think that you can run? What happened to your passion and bravery from before? What are you doing? It is your High Firmament Academy that is bullying those who gave you your current position. Are you going to kill us all? Even if you kill us all, you can't stop the truth, shouted that person in panic. I don't know, but I want to try it. Long Chun shook his head. With just a slight clench of his hand, that person's body exploded and his blood rained down, rendering the onlookers utterly speechless. Long Chen's brutal methods left them in a state of shock and disbelief. His blood. The color's wrong. This is the blood of the beast race. Suddenly, startled cries rang out. The falling blood was not only vivid but also bore peculiar markings. It was not something the human race should have. Could it be that? Suddenly, the onlookers realized that they had been used. It seemed that this person had been using spiritual strength when shouting just now, intentionally fanning their emotions, and they had actually followed along without realizing it. At this moment, over 10 people in the crowd shot out in different directions, fleeing. However, their efforts proved futile as the void trembled and golden arrows accurately pierced through their heads. What baffled the onlookers was that these arrows weren't shot at them from behind but from the front. It was a silent, bizarre attack, and people didn't even know how this attack was unleashed. Finally, Fear and dread gripped their hearts. They're actually all demonic beasts. All of the fleeing individuals had the same thing in their blood, so everyone in the crowd quickly realized that they had been used. These demonic beasts had used them to cause trouble for the High Firmament Academy. You think you could hide? Did you think that concealing yourself would guarantee your survival? Sneered Long Chun. Upon forming hand seals, his vast spiritual strength spread. Following that, a majestic dragon cry rang out in the onlookers' heads. Dozens of people in the crowd suddenly had their heads explode. Their corpses slowly fell. What shocked people was that, without exception, all of them possessed the blood of the beast race. Furthermore, looking at their blood, it seemed that they came from the same race. All right, the root of the tumor has been found. Time to treat it entirely. Long Chun smiled. However, that smile was incredibly cold. Kill them all. Long Chen's order scared by Shirshir and the others. Kill them all? How could they do that? Only Qing Feng and Qi Yu immediately placed their hands on their swords to follow his order. How brazen! I want to see just who dares to try. Just then, over 10 innate heaven venerate elders appeared, and their pressures instantly crashed down on everyone. People didn't dare to even move in front of them. However, the appearance of these heaven venerates didn't rattle Long Chun in the slightest. Everything was within his expectations. Without the tacit approval of these old fellows, the young fellows wouldn't have dared to be so arrogant. Qing Feng and Qi Yu still had their hands on their swords, looking at Long Chun. If Long Chun gave them so much as a single look, they would directly attack. Even if they couldn't beat the innate heaven venerates, slaughtering the immortal kings here would be no problem. Long Chun simply smiled at those innate heaven venerates. He then clasped his hands behind him and stepped forward. How brazen! The brazen ones should be you, no? You want to see who dares to try? Long Chun walked straight over to one of those elders. He was the one who had just spoken. Who are you? You aren't qualified to speak to me. Call out your dean, barked the elder after eyeing Long Chun. Long Chen's response was a slap. He was neither fast nor slow, so people clearly saw the slap perfectly strike the elder's face. The onlookers saw that this calm slap was something that even an ordinary immortal king could easily block. But that innate heaven venerate was easily struck, leaving the onlookers dumbfounded. Only those familiar with Long Chun smiled excitedly. This slap was something that no one within 5 steps of him could possibly dodge. It was practically a heaven-defying divine ability. This slap didn't cause much damage, but the humiliation factor was its strong point. Even an innate heaven venerate was unable to sense it when Long Chun attacked. By the time that he reacted, he was already struck. You little brute! You're courting death! That innate heaven venerate roared furiously. Long Chun hadn't used any power in this slap. To put it frankly, he was simply humiliating the heaven venerate. Following that roar, everyone's vision seemed to flicker for a moment. In just a second, Long Chun had slapped him in the face once again. This time, Long Chun had used his power behind it, and it could be seen from the appearance of the golden dragon scales on his palm. As a result, the sound of bones breaking rang out. Half of the elder's face collapsed, and he shot back like a shooting star. When he smashed into a nearby stone tablet, the tablet was fine, but blood sprayed out of the elder's mouth. Among the blood, people could see his teeth roll away. An old fart who refuses to die always lives crookedly. I suppose this expression is referring to you. Just say the word, and I'll send you to the underworld. If you don't keep your mouth clean, tomorrow will be your funeral, said Long Chun darkly, his killing intent not concealed at all. You brute! I'll go all out against you. This elder seemed to have gone insane. As he had never suffered such humiliation in this lifetime, he no longer cared about some curse. With a roar, the might of an innate heaven venerate burst forth. No! Startled cries rang out. If he were really to attack Long Chun, that would be instantly sensed by the heavenly Daos. Even if Long Chun died, he would not survive either. Today, he must die. The elder had gone insane. He felt like if he didn't kill Long Chun, he would die of rage. In the blink of an eye, The space before the elder contorted and warped, revealing a giant claw shrouded in black scale that smashed toward the elder with a heaven-shaking aura. Upon seeing this scene, that elder's expression completely changed. He actually didn't dare to receive that claw and suddenly vanished. To everyone's surprise, when the elder vanished, the black claw vanished alongside him. In the following instant, the space in the distance exploded, and the sinister black claw re-emerged, stained with blood. For a moment, people were simply stunned. That elder had fled at the first instant but still couldn't dodge this claw. When the claw loosened its grip, the elder was gone, and an item clattered to the ground. That was the elder's weapon. Everything unfolded so fast that even innate heaven venerates couldn't react to it. The elder, tragically, didn't even have the chance to draw his weapon before being slain, leaving his companions in a state of panic. As expected of the dragon race's divine abilities, it is similar to the cloud dragon immolation claw, but his technique seems light and easy. He can unleash it without preparation, catching the other side off guard. But for me, it's much more taxing. As expected, the dragon race's divine abilities are more suited to the dragon race, sighed Long Chun inside. He knew that the palace master was the one behind this attack. Furthermore, it was done through space. Just as Dean Biletian had said, this palace master didn't like talking, but he was a ruthless character. The palace master didn't even need to appear. Through space, he could instantly obliterate an innate heaven venerate, shocking Long Chun. He couldn't help but sigh. The dragon race was truly powerful. Now do you know who is more brazen? Seeing everyone's shocked appearance, Long Chun coldly snorted. All those innate heaven venerates expressions were ugly. None of them had expected the High Firmament Academy to be concealing such a terrifying expert. Let us not beat around the bush. Your petty thoughts are nothing more than the thoughts of children in front of me. You intentionally had the demonic beast race sneak their way in to fan the flames and force the High Firmament Academy to do what you wanted. If they were exposed, you would blame those scapegoats, and the Academy wouldn't be able to punish you for it, am I right? Sneered Long Chen. Hearing that, the Academy's experts were enraged. These fellows were so treacherous, so despicable. Many of you don't know me, so I'll introduce myself. I am Long Chen. I am currently in charge of this place. In other words, whatever I say counts, said Long Chen lightly. Upon disclosing his name, a noticeable commotion stirred among the experts, indicating that they were undoubtedly familiar with him and his reputation. Long Chen's gaze swept over them. There's no need to bring up your excuses. The nonsense about how the High Firmament Academy is partly yours. What dogs hit? When the High Firmament Academy was in its worst state, it took the efforts of many generations of our people to restore it. As for your ancestors, they only came to join after they saw the High Firmament Academy shine again. Our ancestors did promise that the Academy's wisdom would be shared with everyone within the 9 heavens and 10 lands. But that only refers to people who sincerely wish to learn. It doesn't include a bunch of killers with ulterior motives who throw the peace of the world into chaos. As for the ancestral teachings, I'm in charge of this place, and the rules are set by me. Even if I go against the ancestral teachings, I will bear the responsibility myself. So, you can scram. All those who caused a ruckus with you can scram away as well. You have lost your right to be here. Upon hearing this, those experts' expressions changed. Long Chun was kicking them out, not even allowing them to stay in the outer area. Long Chun, come out and face your death. Just then, from outside the High Firmament Academy's territory, a furious roar rang out and lightning thundered. After that, the air of heavenly punishment covered this land. That voice was backed by roiling thunder coming from the tribulation clouds. Thus, when it sounded, heavenly might raged, causing even the innate heaven venerates to turn pale. Hearing someone challenging Long Chun, all those people couldn't bother arguing and directly ran from the Academy's territory. It's the heavenly lightning violet salamander race. Startled cries rang out as they saw tens of thousands of heavenly geniuses standing outside the High Firmament Academy's territory. They were all immortal kings, and dozens of them had supreme auras around them. Their leader had a halberd on his back and a violet gold crown on his head. Lightning runes danced within his eyes, and crackling bolts of lightning coiled around his formidable presence, causing even innate heaven venerates to feel immense pressure from him. To their surprise, the heavenly lightning violet salamander race had actually produced an astonishing genius. Seeing this genius, the ones who had been driven away by Long Chun began to smile at his misfortune. For this person to challenge Long Chun, that old monster in the High Firmament Academy definitely wouldn't dare to interfere. In other words, Long Chun would be on his own. Either he hid like a tortoise or went out alone. In truth, the moment Long Chun saw the tribulation clouds covering the sky, he knew who had come. It must be the vengeance of the heavenly lightning violet salamander race. He had been told that the heavenly lightning violet salamander race was famous for being protective of its kin. Unfortunately, Long Chun had encountered one of them who had tried to rob him, leading to the salamander's demise at his hand. Now his race's people had come, seeking vengeance for him. Long Chun, get out here and face your death. Long Chun heard an impatient roar as soon as he walked out of the palace. They really don't know how the character for death is written. Boss, let me deal with them. Bai Shaola immediately volunteered himself. The current Bai Shaola looked harmless, exuding an extremely weak aura. However, at this very moment, 3 flowers swirled within his eyes, as if the entire cosmos was contained within them. After all, the divine abilities of the 6th Dao Heavenly Eye race had been passed down to Bai Shaola, and he had diligently honed his skills over time. Having grasped a significant portion of this inheritance, his power now far surpassed his former self. Big brother Long Chun. Before Long Chun could even say anything, Lei Linger also grew excited, wanting to have these people's scales. Don't worry, I understand. Long Chun smiled. Long Chun, you dare to kill my race's people. What guts. However, a life must be repaid with a life. There's nothing else to say. You can just kill yourself, shouted one of the experts of the heavenly lightning violet salamander race. Ha ha ha. Long Chun raised his head and laughed like he had just heard a joke. Even Bai Shishir, Bai Shaola, Qin Feng, Qi Yu, and the others laughed. This fellow was too crazy. Wasn't he? He wanted Long Chun to kill himself? There had to be something wrong with his brain, no? That heavenly genius let them laugh. When they were done, he coldly said, Go ahead and laugh. You won't have another chance to. Boss, let me do it. I feel like I can beat him, said Bai Shaola confidently. Then can you kill him? Asked Long Chun. I'm not too sure. Bai Shaola shook his head. He was confident in beating this person, but he had no assurance of being able to kill him. Then forget it. You either fight to kill them all or you don't fight, said Long Chun. Bai Shaola jumped in shock. It seemed that Long Chun didn't just want the speaker's life but also the lives of all the heavenly geniuses of the heavenly lightning violet salamander race. Mr. Long Chun, look at the time. What are you still waiting for? The auction has already started. Just at that moment, a panicked and angry voice rang out. Countless experts wearing robes of the Soaring Dragon Company had suddenly appeared, and their leader was precisely that innate heaven venerate that had been acting as a liaison. This innate heaven venerate was sweating and only sighed with relief when he saw Long Chun. At least he had found this moneymaker of his. Just wait a moment. I'll deal with this quickly, said Long Chun. The innate heaven venerate instantly grew anxious. What are we waiting for? Do you know how many people are waiting for you over there? There are already thousands of innate heaven venerates waiting. They are all famous figures of various races and worlds. You didn't arrive at the agreed-upon time, so I ran all over looking for you. Hurry up and come with me. You can deal with these affairs after the auction. He was truly panicked. He had been busy with so many affairs lately that he had left Long Chen's matter to one of his trustworthy subordinates. But then, that subordinate was killed by someone just yesterday, and he wasn't even aware of it. It was only when the auction started that he went to find him and grew panicked. It seemed that everyone was after Long Chen's heaven-earth cauldron. If Long Chun wasn't there, perhaps the entire Soaring Dragon Company would be flipped by those people. Thinking of this, he immediately rushed to the Starry River sect, but the people there ignored him, refusing to tell him where Long Chun had gone. In the end, the Soaring Dragon Company used their own eyes to find that Long Chun was in the High Firmament Academy, and he immediately rushed over. With their power, every movement in this place should actually be under their purview. However, the auction had caused a huge fuss, and they were extremely short on manpower at this moment. They were so busy with the auction that they simply didn't have the extra power to monitor the entire Sage King Prefecture. Heroes of the Heavenly Lightning Violet Salamander race, please give the Soaring Dragon Company this face. Whatever personal grievances you have, I won't interfere. However, Long Chun and the Soaring Dragon Company are currently holding an auction, and the legendary Heaven Earth Cauldron is the main attraction. I'm sure you've heard of it. The auction is starting right now. If you are interested, you can come with us. Although the seats are all gone, in order to express our sincerity, I will do my best to get you a spot as well. How is that? Pleaded the innate heaven venerate of the Soaring Dragon Company. The experts of the Heavenly Lightning Violet Salamander race had originally been determined to kill Long Chun, but now they hesitated. Fine, we'll give you this face. Letting Long Chun live a bit longer is no problem. What a pack of fools. They don't even know someone just dragged them away from the brink of death, sneered Qin Feng. They had no idea that it was their boss who had made his determination to kill them. All right, many thanks, everyone. Please come. That innate heaven venerate cupped his fists to everyone and beckoned to Long Chun and the others. Long Chun thought for a bit. In the end, he brought only Bai Shishir, Bai Shaola, Qin Feng, Qi Yu, Mu Qingyun, Zhong Ling, and Zhong Xiu with him to attend the auction. Long Chun also ordered that Heaven Venerate to inform Guoran and Xiachan to come, irritating him. He was now viewed as Long Chen's servant, but he didn't dare to express his dissatisfaction and directly sent someone to inform them. Only then did Long Chen leave with him. Coming with them were the experts of the Heavenly Lightning Violet Salamander race, as well as other powers who wanted to take a look. When Long Chun arrived at the auction, he immediately sneered. What unscrupulous businessmen! Just as Long Chun expected, the Soaring Dragon Company had occupied one of the ruins in the Sage King Convention and constructed a giant auction hall on it. In order to attend this auction, not only did you need to buy a ticket, but you also had to deposit a certain amount of money with the Soaring Dragon Company. If you deposited enough money, you could even save on the ticket price. However, the money that you deposited could not be withdrawn except through buying the wares of the Soaring Dragon Company. For an ordinary person to get a ticket, especially for the rogue cultivators with no sect backing them, not only did they need to buy a ticket, but they also had to pay a down payment for the Soaring Dragon Company's goods. To put it frankly, they were binding these people to their business. When Long Chen arrived, he saw quite a lot of people cursing the Soaring Dragon Company for being immoral. That was because when they bought the tickets, the Soaring Dragon Company didn't mention anything about the deposit. As for a refund for the tickets, the Soaring Dragon Company said that the place to do refunds was in the Darklight Heaven. If they wanted a refund, fine, they could go to the Darklight Heaven. This enraged countless people. How was this doing business? This was clearly robbing them. It was vicious and greedy. Who would run all the way to the Darklight Heaven just to get a refund? The price to cross heavens was far greater. This was clearly a con. However, these people had no background, so they could only accept defeat and curse in order to express this dissatisfaction. But they knew that they couldn't beat the Soaring Dragon Company. Furthermore, there were so many people here. How did they dare to cause too big of a fuss? Who knew whether the Soaring Dragon Company would simply make them disappear? Just before this, the loudest complainers among the crowd had their heads silently severed. However, people didn't even see what the killers looked like. Even so, they knew that it had to be the Shadow Race's assassins, as only they possessed such terrifying methods. Many people left furiously after that, but others could only clench their teeth and pay the additional entry fee to get in. Hearing those curses, Long Chun couldn't help scoffing at the Soaring Dragon Company's methods. This was why he gave them the straightforward label of unscrupulous businessmen. And how exactly are you any better than us? We're holding the auction, and you have the audacity to demand a commission fee from us. Why don't you look in the mirror before judging others? If we didn't charge this much, how could we pay your fee? Even if the heaven-earth cauldron does fetch an exorbitant price, we still have to part with 10% of it to you. Furthermore, the Soaring Dragon Company has poured millions into hosting this event. Given that, who's to say whether we'll end up in the red after you've taken your cut? What right do you have to mock us? Sneered the elder from the Soaring Dragon Company after hearing Long Chen's insult. In fact, this elder was particularly enraged. When had they ever been forced to hold such an auction? There was no precedent, as it was practically bullying. I didn't expect that you knew how to talk so well. Not bad. You're right, we're birds of the same flock. We shouldn't despise each other. Long Chen nodded. Humph. The elder snorted and said, at least you know that you're not clean either. However, if you don't have the ability, don't try to force it. If you try to do it anyway, don't start crying later on. Who are you showing that ugly face of yours to? Are you hoping for me to make it up for you? Said Long Chen lightly. You. What you? I'm now the VIP of your Soaring Dragon Company. Without me, this auction will be a failure. If I back out, how will you appease everyone's fury? It would be strange if these people didn't tear you apart. So, if you're angry, you better endure it. If you have a fart, you better hold it in. Even if I slap you, you have to take it. The reason I don't is only because I don't want to dirty my hands. You should start seeing things more clearly from now on, said Long Chen calmly. The elder quivered with rage, but he didn't dare to retort. Just as Long Chen said, if he were to slap this elder, he wouldn't dare to retaliate. The elder would only be able to clench his teeth and endure it. Seeing Long Chen chide an innate heaven venerate like chiding a dog, Mu Qingyun, Zhongling, Zhongxiu, and the others almost laughed. After being apart for so long, Long Chen's domineering nature had not changed at all. Even in the Nirvana overflow heaven, amid the gathering of heavenly geniuses in the Sage King Convention, Long Chen was still the most domineering person. No one could compete with his light. The sensation was both familiar and comforting to them. Being in Long Chen's presence always stirred something within them. Long Chen and the others had their own exclusive passageway, granting them direct access to the inner area. Of course, no one dared to demand tickets from them or cause any trouble. Here, Long Chen saw that this place was bigger than it appeared on the outside. There was easily a space of 1,000,000 miles here. At the center was a giant platform, the auction stage, and there were extravagant private rooms set up around it. Naturally, those were prepared for people with the highest status and wealth. Outside those private rooms were some booths, split into 3 levels: high, middle, and low. The high-level booths had beautiful attendants looking after them. The middle-level booths also had attendants to pour tea for them, but it wasn't a one-on-one service, more like a person handling many booths. As for the low-level booths, other than having a bit more space, there was nothing special there. Behind them were just lines of chairs. The further back you went, the more packed they were. Clearly, those people were only here to watch the show. The Soaring Dragon Company was planning on selling high-end items for this auction, and people on this level wouldn't be able to purchase those. To put it frankly, the people in this region simply had their money taken by the Soaring Dragon Company, and afterward they had nothing of value for the Soaring Dragon Company to squeeze out of anymore. Those with true power wouldn't sit with people like them. The rich would pay a high price for the booths and private rooms. By the time Long Chen arrived, the auction had already started. But before the items actually appeared, there were displays of singing and dancing and other events to warm up the room. After all, it would be too abrupt to instantly jump into auctioning things. Countless gazes instantly turned toward Long Chen when he walked in, causing him to become the focal point. After that, countless waves of divine sense reached out from the experts in the private rooms, wantonly scanning Long Chen. Boss! Just then, Xia Chun and Guoran walked in from another passageway. They actually arrived at this moment. Seeing them, Long Chen was instantly put at ease. Guoran then gave him a signal that everything was handled. Since everything was handled, Long Chen couldn't be bothered wasting more time. He directly walked over to the stage where the dancers were performing. Long Chen, your private room is over there. The elder hastily got in his way. I'm here to auction my item, so why would I go into a room? Once the auction is done, I still have other things to deal with. Long Chun pushed the elder aside. Hearing this, the elder was shocked and enraged. Are you joking? The auction is going to last for 7 days, and your heaven-earth cauldron is the ultimate final item. Here, you have to obey the rules. Pow! Long Chun suddenly slapped the elder in the face. Seeing this scene, the dancers let out startled cries and dodged as the elder came tumbling past them. That innate heaven venerate tumbled across the stage and fell to the other side. As a result, the dancing and music came to a halt. Everything became silent. Long Chun then walked to the center of the stage, his gaze sweeping over everyone. I am Long Chun. Today, let me take charge of this auction. What is this? What is Long Chun doing? The Soaring Dragon Company's experts came running out. On the other hand, the innate heaven venerate, whom Long Chun had slapped, was practically hysterical. What do you think I'm doing? Your Soaring Dragon Company's manners are too lacking. Everyone is here for my bronze cauldron, but you're actually making them wait until the end? How long are you planning on making everyone wait? Who does this? We're all cultivators, and our time is precious. Furthermore, the Sage King Convention is about to start. Who has the time to watch your rotten auction? After saying that, Long Chun turned back to the audience. Everyone, I, Long Chun, sincerely wish to sell the bronze cauldron in my hands. I have no time to waste. That is why I want to ask everyone's opinion. I want the first auction item to be the bronze cauldron. Does everyone agree? Agreed. The majority of the audience instantly shouted their assent. Just as Long Chun had stated, they had come solely for the heaven-earth cauldron, and no one wanted to spend too much time in this venue. However, they were all aware of the unwritten rule. Auctions always reserved the most valuable item for the grand finale. This was a rule that they couldn't disregard. Since that was the case, Long Chen's proposal was accepted by these people. They wanted to see if this bronze cauldron of his was the real deal or not. Bastard! Are you trying to con the Soaring Dragon Company? Do you know how much money you're making us lose? Roared an expert of the Soaring Dragon Company. What does that have to do with me? It wasn't as if we had an agreement for my item to be the last one. So I'm going first. Once I'm done, you can keep going, said Long Chen. You! That elder almost coughed up blood. Once the bronze cauldron was sold, would anyone bother with the remaining items? It was as if someone had revealed the answer to a riddle before even posing the question. Who would play such a game? If it was possible, this elder would kill Long Chun right here and now. The entire situation was already out of their control. Hurry up and start. We can skip the tricks. Starting with the cauldron is good. No one is interested in the other trash. Long Chun, you can start. Hurry. Our time is very precious. The Soaring Dragon Company is too dirty. Long Chun, take out that heaven-earth cauldron. Even the experts in the private rooms began to shout their agreement. They were essentially all innate heaven venerates, representatives of their own factions. They were not existences that the Soaring Dragon Company could provoke. Hearing this, the Soaring Dragon Company's people were paralyzed with fury. But now that everyone in the crowd was agreeing with it, they couldn't stop it anymore. They were like ants on a hot plate, trying to think of what to do. However, when divine light appeared on the stage, they knew that they were done for. Everyone, please take a look. This is the bronze cauldron that I obtained from the 3,000 worlds. Long Chen directly took out the cauldron. Yet, to his astonishment, as he withdrew the imitation from the primal chaos space, within his mind sea, the earth cauldron quivered slightly. Following that, the fake cauldron actually began to shine with a mystical divine light. Long Chun was shocked by this. Up until now, other than using the earth cauldron to refine pills, he was unable to use it for anything. However, this time, it had actually taken the initiative to imbue a trace of its divine radiance into the imitation. Now, this fake cauldron possessed a trace of its divine might, so it was clearly helping Long Chun pull off this scam. Long Chun was overjoyed by this. With the aid of the true earth cauldron, this fake would be even more realistic. He then tried to communicate with the Earth Cauldron, but it appeared to be ignoring him. It seemed that this item from the Primal Chaos era was quite lofty. Primal Chaos chi swirled around the bronze cauldron, its runes quivering as if it were a living object. Within those runes, they could discern soaring birds, roaming beasts, towering mountains, expansive plains, meandering rivers, and the ceaseless movement of the sun, moon, and stars. Through it, people felt as though they could see the world of the Primal Chaos era. Its majestic aura made them feel minuscule. This is. When Guoran and Xiachun saw it, they both jumped in shock. Did Boss take out the real thing by accident? The fake that the two of them had crafted might appear similar on the outside, with even its runes being identical, but what they had created was ultimately a lifeless object. In contrast, this thing was imbued with life. Countless experts stared at the bronze cauldron, and the experts in the private rooms could not remain seated. They ran as close as they could and used their divine sense to examine this bronze cauldron. Hey, no jumping onto the stage. You shameless things! Are you trying to steal it? Long Chun pointed at the closest heaven venerate. That expert was instinctively drawn to the heaven-earth cauldron and only woke up from his stupor with that warning. Long Chun had one hand on the heaven-earth cauldron, looking like he would put it away at any moment. Sorry, I couldn't help myself from getting a closer look. The expert paused and retreated. Everyone, just looking at it is meaningless. Such a specialized object requires an appraisal. Didn't the Soaring Dragon Company say that they had prepared 8 Grandmaster appraisers? Where are they? Is everyone from the Soaring Dragon Company dead already? Announced Long Chun. Following that, 8 elders walked onto the stage, wearing furious expressions. Their plans for this auction had been thrown into chaos by Long Chun. However, now that things had reached this point, there was no going back. They could only thicken their faces and take out a number of appraisal tools. After wearing their gloves, they began to inspect the cauldron. Yet, the 8 of them didn't dare to get too close to it. One reason was because Long Chun had said that no one was allowed to get within 30 meters of the bronze cauldron for fear of them trying to steal it. The other reason was that while these 8 elders were very experienced appraisers, their actual power was only in the mortal venerate realm. They couldn't actually endure its divine might. The 8 elders busily examined it, while countless streams of divine sense swept over the cauldron. Upon sensing the majestic primal chaos chi on it, even their breathings grew haggard. These experts were all experienced and could tell whether something was a treasure or not with just a glance. These powerful fluctuations and ancient aura could not be faked. This was very likely the legendary Heaven-Earth Cauldron, and as a result, some individuals were already starting to get some dangerous ideas. The entire auction hall was practically boiling with various emotions before slowly descending into a stifling, deathly silence. The tension in the air was unbearable. The 8 appraisers spent almost an hour examining the cauldron. In the end, they exchanged a look and nodded before turning to an elder in the distance. Long Chun saw it all and coldly said, "What's this? Do you need to consult with your master after the appraisal? Is the authenticity of this thing up to your master instead of you 8? What is the Soaring Dragon Company planning? If the appraisal is complete, announce the results. What's with the delay? Do you have to discuss it amongst yourselves first?" Furious roars directly burst out of the crowd. Everyone's gaze locked onto the Soaring Dragon Company's people. "Speak. Is it real or fake?" demanded Long Chun coldly. Everyone turned silent again. The 8 appraisers panicked a bit after being shouted at and just looked at that elder in the distance. Seeing this scene, that elder felt like he had lost his face. Anyway, he was now under everyone's gaze, so there was no way for him to transmit spiritual messages over. In the end, he coughed and said, "Long Chun asked you a question. What are you looking at me for? Isn't it simple for grandmasters like yourselves to tell the veracity of this treasure?" Long Chun sneered. His subtle hint was a bit too obvious, wasn't it? Did he view others as fools? As expected, one of the appraisers instantly said, "The Heaven-Earth Cauldron is a primal chaos divine item. its legends echoing throughout the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Yet, while its name is known to all, none have laid eyes upon it. Moreover, historical records provide diverse descriptions of the heaven-earth cauldron's appearance. So even with our skill, we are ashamed to say that we cannot determine if it is the real thing. What? Countless people roared furiously. Do you take us for monkeys to be toyed with? If you can't even appraise it, how dare you summon us here? You're just wasting our time. You can't even tell if it's the real deal when it's next to you. You were the ones who swore that the cauldron in Long Chen's hands was the heaven-earth cauldron. So you were just spreading lies to get others to kill him? You can't tell if it's real or not. Is that your excuse? So you shamelessly demand our money for this farce? Give me my money back. The crowd went out of control. The 8 of them had examined the cauldron for so long, only to make such a conclusion? Who wouldn't be enraged by it? Everyone, calm down. Let me finish first, cried out the elder. When the furious roars settled a bit, the elder continued. Everyone, although you are not specialized in this area, everyone knows just how important the heaven-earth cauldron is. No one would dare to be so arrogant as to say anything for sure about it. But you were the ones who confirmed it in the violet flame heaven, said Long Chen. The elder pretended not to hear Long Chen's slap in the face. He continued, when we first released this information, we were not prudent enough and didn't go through a detailed evaluation. For us to make such a declaration without conclusive proof, we can't shed responsibility for our mistake. Thus, the branch head who released this information was immediately dealt with and removed from office. We did all we could to remedy this situation, but this information spread too quickly, and we were unable to suppress it in time. There was nothing we could do at that point. Now that this cauldron is in front of us, we can make a conclusion based on its shape, runes, aura, and other factors with the documents that our Soaring Dragon Company has. The elder intentionally paused here. He was quite the schemer, drawing everyone's attention and trying to regain control over the auction. If you have something to say, say it. Hurry up. What is it? Quite a few impatient shouts rang out. Seeing that there really was no way to control everyone, the elder hastily continued. The conclusion we made is that this bronze cauldron is not an item of the current era. Are you fucking stupid? Anyone who isn't blind can see that. Get to the main point, scoffed a voice from a private box. The elder didn't dare to argue and continued. We have compared it to the information that we have. This bronze cauldron matches 47 of the 107 pictures of the heaven-earth cauldron that we have in our records. What? Are all the pictures of the heaven-earth cauldron different? The appraisers didn't reply and just looked at the elder in the distance once more. That elder announced, I'm sorry, but this relates to one of the Soaring Dragon Company's secrets. Forgive me for not being able to disclose it. Long Chen grasped this chance to say, what dog's hit secret? If you can't bring out any proof, how is anyone supposed to believe you? How can we possibly trust your word when you lie and say whatever you want for profit? Everyone here came for the heaven-earth cauldron. If you cannot evaluate this cauldron and give any proof, aren't you treating everyone like idiots? I took the risk of having a supreme treasure robbed from me precisely because I wanted to know just what this item was. Every single person here wants to know the same thing. No matter what, your Soaring Dragon Company must give us a satisfactory answer today. Long Chen was extremely confident at the moment. With the help of the Earth Cauldron, he wasn't afraid at all. No matter what, he had to sell this fake for a good price. If the Soaring Dragon Company couldn't control the crowd, then they could allow him to sell it himself. Long Chen is right. You must give us a satisfactory answer. Otherwise, who knows whether or not you were just conning us. After all, we've never seen the Heaven-Earth Cauldron, nor have we seen your records. This time, even innate heaven venerates couldn't sit still. The Soaring Dragon Company had to bring out proof. They couldn't just skip over this. After all, the matter of the Heaven-Earth Cauldron was huge. If this cauldron really was the Heaven-Earth Cauldron, it would be the first of the 10 primal chaos divine items to appear in millions and millions of years. It was said that after the great battle of primal chaos, all the 10 primal chaos divine items vanished. Even inheritances relating to them disappeared within the river of time. It was said that the final existence to be bestowed with anything from the primal chaos divine items was the Grand Xia nation. But ultimately, Xia Guhong disbanded the Grand Xia. Although it was rumored that Xia Guhong could control a trace of the Grand Xia Dragon Sparrow's power, in the end, the actual Grand Xia Dragon Sparrow never appeared. As a result, the 10 great primal chaos divine items remained lost. If Long Chen's bronze cauldron really was a primal chaos divine item, this would be a matter that shook the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Although people hadn't believed it at the start, after seeing it and sensing its supreme divine might, they started to believe it. But in the end, whether it was real or not would have to be decided by professionals specialized in dealing with such matters. However, these specialists were trying to get out of making a real decision today. How could they let that happen? Soaring Dragon Company, what do you think you're playing at? Is this how you conduct business? Do you believe me when I say that I'll tear down your tortoise nest? In the end, someone actually unleashed their terrifying aura. They seemed to be on the verge of exploding. This was an innate heaven venerate from the devil race, and his terrifying devil chi burst out of his private room. His sinister killing intent shook people's souls. Soaring Dragon Company, stop dawdling. Hand over the proof. Other heaven venerates began to shout, intimidating the Soaring Dragon Company's people. But in front of their fury, they chose to compromise. They then glared at Long Chen darkly, as if Long Chen had just slain their father. In front of their fury, Long Chen smiled inside, feeling much better. The Bai clan's brother and sister were so kind and pure. Today, if I don't con you to death, I'll write my name backward. With no other choice, the Soaring Dragon Company obediently dragged out a bunch of picture frames of various sizes. When Long Chen saw the images depicted in them, his heart sank. Not good. These pictures were embedded within refined crystals, with runes flowing on top of them, sealing the ancient pictures inside. They seemed to come from various sources like bone books and beast hides, and each of them portrayed a bronze cauldron. Most of these pictures could be split into 2 depictions. One of those 2 was the cauldron in Long Chen's hand, but there was a completely different set of runes in the others. Not good. The Heaven-Earth Cauldron is made of the Earth Cauldron and Heaven Cauldron, and their runes are completely different. Long Chen looked at the fake that Xia Chen and Guoran had just made, feeling dumbfounded. If the Heaven Cauldron had completely different runes, how was he supposed to sell it afterward? This was different from his plan. He couldn't con people like this. Everyone, take a look. Amongst these pictures, there are 2 types of cauldrons. They should be quite trustworthy. However, Long Chen's Heaven-Earth Cauldron only matches one of them. Thus, our Soaring Dragon Company does not dare to arrogantly declare anything. We can only say that this cauldron is not a fake item. But whether or not it is the true Heaven-Earth Cauldron cannot be said the head appraiser. When these pictures were revealed, the experts present were befuddled. The Soaring Dragon Company didn't dare to guarantee the veracity of this item because they were afraid of the responsibility. However, their meaning was very clear now. This item was definitely something ancient. There was nothing faking it. But whether or not it was the Heaven-Earth Cauldron, they refused to say. It would be up to each individual's own opinion. With this, everyone was conflicted. Looking at this cauldron, they felt that it really might be the real deal. Long Chen, how are you selling this cauldron? What do we trade for it? Ask someone. If I don't know whether it's real or not, how am I supposed to sell it? Long Chen frowned. We don't know if it's real or not either. It's a gamble. Gambling is dangerous. Whether you win or not is partly luck and partly your own vision. So why don't you just declare a price? If it's acceptable, we'll be willing to take a gamble. However, if you ask for a lion's bite, then we're not foolish enough to risk it all considering that we can't know the authenticity of it. Other than that, let me just say that this thing is a hot potato. If you have the ability to keep it, then that's one thing. If you don't have though, then don't lose your money and life together. A sinister voice came from the room emitting devil chi. TCH, you're threatening me? Did you think that I'm a coward? Long Chen sneered. Given my temper, I'd refuse to sell it and see just what you could say. However, a person like you can't represent everyone. Many people want to sincerely buy it, and I can't punish them all just because of you alone. I can't waste their time for nothing. This bronze cauldron's origins are unclear, and the crafty fellows from the Soaring Dragon Company never tell the truth. Who knows whether they are secretly planning on buying it for themselves? Long Chen, don't slander others, shouted the innate heaven venerate who had been Long Chen's liaison. All right, well, I won't bother arguing with you. Let's put it this way. I cannot say whether or not this is the true heaven-earth cauldron. However, it has once struck an eternal divine weapon, and I'm sure most people have heard of it. Thus, it is at least a top-grade eternal divine weapon. I won't be greedy. You can trade for it with either eternal divine weapons or corpses of eternal experts. However, the corpses can't belong to the human race, spirit race, or other kind races, said Long Chen. Corpses. An uproar exploded. What did Long Chen want eternal corpses for? 1 for 1? Asked someone. Can you use your brain? At least 1 for 3. If you don't even have 3, don't even offer, sneered Long Chen. 1 for 3? Are you joking? Inheritances with tens of millions of years of history don't even have a single eternal divine weapon. But you dare ask for 3. If you want to trade, then trade. If you don't, then scram. This is an auction, not a charity. If you don't have the money, then don't speak. Did you spend everything on this room? Retorted Long Chen. That person didn't reveal himself. He was in a private room and was also an innate heaven venerate. You! Long Chen was clearly not placing him in his eyes. Silence. This is my treasure, and what I say counts. I'm rather direct, so don't waste your time. I'll only give you 1 chance to buy it. I want either 3 eternal divine weapons or 3 perfectly intact eternal corpses. In my opinion, eternal corpses and eternal divine weapons are of equal value. This bronze cauldron suspected to be the heaven-earth cauldron is now on auction. Don't miss this chance, because once you miss it, you won't get another. The auction starts now, shouted Long Chen. However, everyone was deathly silent, and no one declared a bid. The Soaring Dragon Company's people sneered inside. Without proper preparation, starting off with such a high bid would naturally chill the enthusiasm of the crowd. They were actually hoping for Long Chen to be unable to sell the cauldron. That way, they wouldn't have to pay him his commission fee. In truth, they weren't really planning on paying that fee in the first place. Moreover, Long Chen had intentionally ruined their auction. According to the agreement, Long Chen actually owed them some compensation. Seeing the cold crowd, Long Chen wasn't the slightest bit anxious. He directly said, I'll count to 3. After that, I'll be taking the heaven-earth cauldron away. 1, 2. Long Chen didn't give them any time to hesitate. He directly counted to 2 so quickly like he didn't want anyone to bid. As a result, quite a few people panicked. They seemed to realize something, and just as Long Chen was about to count to 3, someone made a bid. 3 eternal demonic beast corpses. This shout came from a devil expert. So, upon hearing this, the expressions of quite a few demonic beast experts sank. Eternal demonic beast corpses were absolute treasures. But that devil expert actually had 3 of their corpses? These demonic beast experts suddenly had an ugly thought. The demonic beast race and the devil race's relationship was never friendly. Thus, this bid instantly drew out their hatred. There's nothing to be surprised about. We gathered these corpses on immemorial battlefields. It's not like we killed them, sneered that devil expert in front of their furious gazes. Despite his mocking tone, many could discern his underlying nervousness. His explanation revealed his desire to divert their attention from the matter. He was in a private room and didn't expose his face, so no one would know who it was. But to make such an explanation, it seemed even he was extremely cautious about such a matter. Long Chen simply ignored it. It didn't matter where the corpses came from. He would accept them all. Excellent. Room 7 has bid. 3 eternal demonic corpses going once. Long Chen's gaze swept over the crowd, and he quickly shouted, 3 eternal demonic corpses going twice. 3 eternal demonic corpses going dash. Long Chen was about to smash his hammer down, when someone coldly said, for eternal devil corpses. The speaker was also in a private room and didn't show himself. However, there were intense demonic beast fluctuations coming from that room, showing that it was clearly an expert of the demonic beast race. The devil expert had bid 3 demonic beast corpses, infuriating the demonic beast race, and now this expert was striking back, causing the devil expert's expressions to change. The atmosphere instantly grew rather odd. So Long Chen loudly announced, everyone, since you have a private room, it's clear that you don't want to show yourselves to others. Isn't it precisely to not let others know who you are? Here's my offer. If you are lucky enough to obtain the cauldron, you can leave with it with no one else being the wiser. It won't bring any trouble to you or your family. As for the eternal corpses in your hands, they are also not items that can see the light of day. Didn't you bring them precisely because you are hoping to secretly sell them for things that you need? Devil corpses, demon corpses, everyone wants to get rid of them but are also afraid of slipping up and bringing about a calamity. So, you want to trade them for things that you want, yet you don't dare to offer them up openly. Isn't that tiring? These eternal corpses are like treasures. Whoever finds them first is the keeper. You can trade them as you please. Why have so many misgivings? I will say it clearly right now. I am a rather direct person, and I don't like being treated like a monkey to be toyed with. Stop interrupting me every time I'm about to count to 3. I want to toss this hot potato to someone else, but if you keep interrupting me like that, I'm just going to smash my hammer down and accept whatever the current price is. This little speech from Long Chen had quite an effect. In truth, many factions had items that couldn't see the light of day. From the Huayun Trading Company, Long Chen had learned that some items had major implications if they were to be traded, and the Soaring Dragon Company would actually accept them in a black market trade. On the other hand, the Huayun Trading Company never participated in such trades, because doing business in the black market always caused some inevitable bloodshed and darkness. Hence, the Huayun Trading Company refused to participate in it. In contrast, the Soaring Dragon Company operated differently. They were willing to use any means necessary for money, even if it meant taking significant risks. However, dealing with such stuff could easily infect them with some terrifying karma. Thus, the Soaring Dragon Company charged an exceedingly steep fee for their involvement in these things. As a result, many factions were dissatisfied when doing this business with them, contemplating ways to conduct this business independently without their involvement. However, this kind of trade was extremely difficult, as one mistake could trigger a bloody battle. Thus, they were always cautious. The demonic beast race also had some eternal corpses from the devil race, which held no value to them. As a result, they wished to trade them for the demonic beast corpses of the devil race, who shared the same sentiment. But neither side had any connections to facilitate such exchanges. Furthermore, even if they had those connections, they might not dare to do a direct trade. After all, how were they supposed to discuss the difference in price? If the trade didn't go well, a bloody battle was all too likely to erupt. Moreover, they didn't just have corpses but also had divine weapons, cultivation techniques, bone books, and other priceless treasures that were useless to them. But trading them away was too difficult. Now that the Sage King Convention had started, it was a good chance to get rid of those things. They hoped that they could exchange those useless items for treasures that they could use. Long Chen saw everyone's hesitation and directly exposed them, letting them set their misgivings aside and compete openly, so they stopped wasting time. Alright, this friend bids for eternal devil corpses. Are there any higher bids? Shouted Long Chen. 5 eternal corpses. Someone instantly made a higher bid. Clearly, Long Chen's words were effective. Everyone was in private rooms, and they could shout their bids freely. After all, these corpses were useless to them, so it was better to use them as chips here. Hopefully, they could win this gamble. If they really obtained the Heaven-Earth Cauldron, it would be a turning point in their lives. 6 eternal corpses. Another person directly bid, stunning everyone. Were eternal corpses really so worthless? Just how did they manage to get so many? 6 eternal corpses plus an eternal divine saber. An ancient voice rang out. Upon hearing this, startled cries rang out. From the fluctuations of that voice, it was clearly a human. It turned out that the human race also had some hidden dragons and crouching tigers. They actually had so many eternal corpses and an eternal divine weapon. Long Chen's expression didn't change, but inside, he was cheering. He was truly making a killing this time. Guoran and Xiachen had mixed expressions. They wanted to warn Long Chen and ask if he had taken out the wrong cauldron. That was because this heaven-earth cauldron in front of them was not the one they made. 10 eternal corpses. With a cold snort, one person directly raised the bid to 10, wanting to scare off his competitors and express that he wanted this cauldron no matter what. 18. As a result, someone was even more ruthless and directly bid 18, shocking everyone. It was a demonic beast expert. Excellent, 18 corpses. This friend has taken the lead. 18 corpses going once, 18 corpses going twice. Even with Long Chen's calmness, he couldn't stop his voice from shaking. If he had 18 eternal corpses, then the primal chaos space would probably undergo a complete transformation. All the vegetation inside would grow crazily, and he would have an unending supply of life energy. 18 corpses and 6 eternal divine weapons. Suddenly, a strange voice rang out and caused an uproar. To their surprise, this bid didn't come from a private room but from the seats in the back instead. Everyone's gazes searched through the seats. According to reason, a person in that spot was only there to watch the show. They wouldn't bid. When everyone looked, they saw that this person was wrapped in black chi, so it was impossible to see their face. In fact, it was impossible to even see what life form they were. However, the deep eyes contained within that black chi raised goosebumps. Even innate heaven venerates felt a cold breeze on their backs when they saw those eyes. Long Chen also jumped in shock. While he couldn't discern the person's origins, he sensed that their cultivation base was in the Immortal King realm. However, the pressure they gave exceeded that of innate heaven venerates. This person will probably be a tough opponent. Long Chen was shaken, but this person's aura was too strange, and he couldn't probe him here. The auction had to continue. 18 corpses and 6 eternal divine weapons. Are there other bids? If there are no further bids, I'll start counting. Going once. Going twice. Going 3 times. Sold. Bang. Long Chen smashed his wooden hammer, his heart blooming with joy. He finally managed to sell off this heaven-earth cauldron. Let us trade right here and now in front of everyone. This friend, please come up, so everyone can see that there is no cheating, said Long Chen. Suddenly, black chi appeared in front of Long Chen. That person seemed to teleport from the back seats to Long Chen in an instant. Enveloped in swirling black chi, this figure appeared ethereal, as if it lacked a physical form and was composed solely of black chi. The only semblance of a corporeal presence was those eyes that were like a fiend's eyes. Someone else would definitely be shaking in their boots from being stared at by those eyes in such close proximity. But Long Chen boldly extended a hand toward that figure. My product has been examined by the Soaring Dragon Company. But what about yours? Asked Long Chen. That figure then moved, and a thumb-sized black stone flew out of his body. Upon its appearance, startled cries rang out. A world stone! A world stone was the product of compressing an entire world to the limit. It contained its own world inside of it and was incomparable to a storage ring. However, as it was refined from the core of a world, it was incredibly precious, so even Long Chen had never seen one before. Long Chen reached out and received the world stone. However, the moment he touched its stone, his expression changed. He then looked at this life form and knew its origins now. Go ahead and check, said the life form. Its voice was very bizarre, like 2 stones grating at each other. It was almost like a specter coming from the depths of hell. Just hearing it made people's souls quiver. Long Chen didn't say anything, and his divine sense entered the world stone. The space inside was practically limitless. But the moment his divine sense entered, a sharp pain struck his soul, and a terrifying divine might almost made him collapse. There were 18 giant corpses with black chi swirling around them inside the world stone. Amongst them were greater demons, fiendish devils, sea monsters, and one in particular made Long Chen's heart leap. Full moon rhinoceros. There was actually an eternal corpse of the full moon race inside. This corpse would not belong to Long Chen. He would have to give it to Uncle Xiong. When Long Chen saw the 6 eternal divine weapons, his expression changed. These 6 weapons are of the Ghost Dao. I can't use them. The Ghost Dao. Gasps rang out from the crowd as they realized where this life form came from. The Ghost Dao's eternal divine weapons could only be used by the Ghost Dao's life forms due to their own specific marks. Others who attempted to wield them would likely have their souls collapsing just by carrying them. After all, these types of eternal divine weapons had a propensity to consume souls. That was why Long Chen knew he had been scammed when he saw those divine weapons. These things were worthless to him. Are they not eternal divine weapons? Said the Ghost Dao's life form. All right, count yourself vicious. I accept it. You can take the bronze cauldron. Long Chen snorted and put away the world stone. The Ghost Dao life form then spread its arms around the bronze cauldron. Black chi gushed out, enveloping the cauldron, and it put it away just like that. After this life form was done, it turned to look at the crowd. I know many of you will want to take the bronze cauldron from me. That's fine. I'll welcome you at any time, whether it be immortal kings or heaven venerates. This life form was quite domineering. It seemed that it looked down on everyone here and was not at all worried about anyone fighting over the cauldron. Suddenly, its body dissipated. Even all the innate heaven venerates here could not tell how it left. For a moment, everyone was deathly silent. This life form had scared everyone. This ability to come and go silently was terrifying. The bronze cauldron was gone, so everyone started to rise and leave. Long Chen was also preparing to leave, but at this moment, inside the primal chaos space, the second bronze cauldron that Xiaochan and Guoran had made suddenly lit up. What? Long Chen was completely shocked. The runes on this cauldron began to change, and all kinds of beast carvings appeared on it, causing a ferocious aura to exude from it. This is... Long Chen hastily checked on the earth cauldron in the spiritual space. It was what had changed the fake cauldron. After seeing this, Long Chen almost cried out. This cauldron now bore a striking resemblance to the second cauldron depicted in the images that the Soaring Dragon Company had presented earlier. Many thanks. Long Chen instantly realized that the earth cauldron was helping him sell off his other fake. Hey, everyone, wait a moment. The auction isn't over. Seeing everyone leaving, Long Chen cried out. The Soaring Dragon Company's people were also trying to advise people to stay, so Long Chen's shout surprised them. Had he finally gotten a conscience and was going to help them? What's the point? The heaven-earth cauldron is gone. Do you have another? Sneered someone irritably. This person was the one who had made the second highest bid, only to be beaten by the Ghost Dao's life form. Ha ha ha. What a guess. Yes, I really have another. Long Chen waved his hand, and another bronze cauldron appeared on the stage with stunning golden light and powerful divine radiance. However, it was different from the previous cauldron. Its peaceful air had been transformed into a frightening one, like a bloodthirsty beast that had been sealed for countless years trying to break free. The entire auction hall grew dark and cold because of its existence. This is... Seeing this cauldron, countless people's expressions changed. This cauldron looked identical to the previous one, but its runes were completely different. The previous cauldron gave off a peaceful feeling, depicting mountains, plains, and rivers, the sun, moon, and stars. However, this cauldron's runes formed into images of various ferocious beasts. Although the images of those beasts were rather vague, people instantly recognized their outlines. There were giant dragons, flying phoenixes, black tortoises, wild tigers, as well as other kinds of ancient beasts that people had never seen before. Its terrible aura filled the auction hall, causing even innate heaven venerates to quiver in front of it. The Soaring Dragon Company's appraisers examined the cauldron, and then one of them excitedly cried out, I understand. I understand. What do you understand? Asked Long Chen. The heaven-earth cauldron is not just one cauldron. It is the earth cauldron and the heaven cauldron. Our records aren't wrong. The two different images inside them are both correct. The one that was sold just now should be the earth cauldron, and this must be the heaven cauldron. So you actually had two cauldrons but auctioned them separately. What profound scheming, said the elder. What profound scheming. If it weren't for the true earth cauldron helping, this fake would have to be thrown away. However, now that the elder said this, there was no need for Long Chen to explain. All the experts present nodded with comprehension. Didn't this mean that Long Chen's cauldrons were truly the heaven-earth cauldron? This is the final bronze cauldron. For anyone with money, the bidding starts now. Seeing countless people staring with scarlet eyes, Long Chen directly started the auction. The crowd practically exploded at that moment.